It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
Yeah, welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Come to you live on weekday nights to talk about guns and not talk about politics and not talk about sales pitches, chat about guns and Second Amendment and that kind of thing. It's an evolving show that right now has been on a bit of a stagnation. Kind of defaults to a discussion forum or a panel discussion, I guess. But it can't default to that if there's no panel. And lately, we don't have a panel, so it's just been this kind of series of short shows trying to work with the system that we got here with the YouTube and the duck. So I called this one something about the free streaming plan because they have some alert that comes up now whenever I log in. I guess they must count the time I spend in other people's chats and the time I'm hosting my own chats because I sign in with the same account. So I'll either have to go with a bunch of accounts and distribute my usage or start paying for an account. I don't really feel like doing that. But I will leave that up to the audience. I know there's a certain amount of people that show up and watch the show in the middle of the night. It starts at midnight Eastern, but some amount of people show up and watch it after. Unless it's one person that just comes in 80 times and watches it. There's at least a couple of people out there watching. So give me some feedback. Is it worth spending $25 a month to pay for this duck thing so that it leaves me alone and lets me continue to broadcast? As much as I'd like to use the chamber, there's a couple of the features over here that make this a little easier for mobile and for, well, when there's a conversation going on, displaying comments and stuff, which I kind of like. However, I've already paid for that other thing, Extreme Split, so I can, Extreme? What is the other one called? Whatever the other one is called, I can always continue to work on that one. So I'll let that kind of be an informal poll. If anybody's got some opinion on it, you can let me know one way or the other in the comments. Anyhow, we're 3 minutes in. I sent this link out today to like 20-something people again, and we'll give it a couple of minutes. I barely sent the link out right on the top of the hour, so like 8 minutes ago. Been live for 3. We'll go for a couple of minutes here. At this point, it says there's 6 people watching. We'll see if anybody actually says anything. 6 lurkers. Lurkers are people that just watch and don't say nothing. They're scared. So we'll go to YouTube and we'll just listen to some kind of boring music that won't get me copyrighted. And I'll go do something else until somebody shows up, or shut it down after a little bit. But the show will start up here, and then an alert will go out, and an email goes out from me to people inviting them into the show, and then they'll either join in or they won't. And I give it a couple of minutes for people to see the alerts or just see my email. And that's why the beginning of the show has been boring lately. So I'm going to flip it over to this happy music that doesn't need any attribution, and we'll play something called Chat Roulette. This is a great way to make it seem like your speakers are bad. That's a horrible song. This one's called Entire. I do not like that one. I'm going to flip it from happy to dramatic. See what dramatic does. sharing a screen here. Don't freak out. That's one monitor with two screens on it. See that? That screen is on one side of just one big ass monitor. One big ass monitor. So this is the duck over here who's threatening me every single day with end of use because of blah blah blah. I don't know, I'm using too much of their time or something. I'm over here on YouTube, but I clicked on the channel. You go down here underneath the money sign. I can't show you that money sign because then you'd see how much money he was making. But I can click on this little musically note sign, and then that takes you to here. I'll just click on it so you see what I'm talking about. Click on it, opens up a new window over here. And now I can go to sound effects, which I don't care about, or I can go to free music, and then I can flip it to no attribution required. So I don't have to tell anybody that I'm using their free music. These are all the communists that put music out there for the world to have. And then you can flip the mood over here. You can flip the genre or the gender, and you can flip that to different things. I'll bring Honda in here. Oops. I'm looking into some music here. And then I don't flip this one because I don't like these. So then I go to mood, and you can give it different moods. And then you can give it instruments and make it sound annoying or even more annoying, so I don't flip these. This is actually useful sometimes. If you're making a big, long video, flip this to 5 minutes or more, and then you don't waste your time looking at 2-second clips. Or if you're just looking for a couple of seconds, get rid of all the long stuff. So this is where it'll tell you how long it is. This is who wrote it, I think, and then the name of it or the kind of music it is. Here's the name of it over here. I don't know if they could hear you beforehand.
No, man. What site is that?
This is YouTube. This is my YouTube thingy, and then it's down here where it has the little book with the music note on it. When you click on it, this is the audio library. So first thing I do is I flip it to, I don't have to tell anybody, because if you leave it here, some of these make you put on like your description of your video. This is Rubik's Cube by Audio Tonics. Whatever. I don't want to do any of that. So I flip it to they don't care. I can do whatever I want. I can't bring you in real call because you're not connected. See what happens? This is what happens when you accept the link, but then you don't let it take your mic and your camera or whatever. I don't think it cares about the camera, but it needs your mic. So he'll come back in where the mic connected, hopefully. Oh, he was having trouble yesterday. So he's got some issue with his mic over there. Probably a duck chewed on him.
Is that in a Creator Studio, or where is that?
That's just in your studio. I just have this.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And then when you click on audio, I have the stupid new one. You might have the old one showing. But when you click on the thing, the audio library will show up. You flip it over so that you don't have to credit whoever it is. And then you just choose some filters so that you're listening to happy or calm, or you can flip it to like reggae.
Wow, okay.
You can have it be sad reggae that you don't have to pay. Oh, see, there's no sad reggae. What the hell? Now I can flip it to, I'll bet you there's funky reggae. Oh yeah, look at that. And then you pick one. Some of them are good and some of them sound like shitty.
Yeah, I gotta I'm putting together the video of building the computer that I just built. So I like recorded the whole thing. And I've been trying to like figure out a way to do music at the beginning for an intro, like make a proper intro for my videos, because I haven't ever had a proper intro for my videos, and I think that's something that I'm lacking. And I didn't want to like pay somebody for freaking music, so this is I've never even noticed this.
When you want it, when they added this a while ago. I'm supposed to show this. Hold on, let me kill this so you don't look at this, and then open up a new one. Yeah, just open a new one and call it untitled. And now this is video editing software, right? So now first I'll just go over here to some videos, right? And first thing I'll do is I'll take a video of me sewing Gary's patch probably. And then that gets dropped into the timeline. And you can see already on that audio section, it's gonna sound like a machine gun, right? So that's a video. And then I can go grab some other pieces to that. It looks like this is also video. Look how much longer that one is. So now I can stretch my focus or whatever you call this part, and I can see the two pieces. It's basically like the film strips are laid down. On this software, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say unlink because I don't need this audio. It sounds like shit. And I'll just delete it, right? So now there's no audio anymore. Now I'll highlight them both so I can grab them. Otherwise, it would move separately, right? I'm going to grab both of them and just move them over so I can shove something in front of them over here. I'll just go somewhere else on my computer where I got pictures at. And grab like this gun website's picture and stick it here. And now that picture isn't a video, but it has to take some amount of time. So by default, I think they give it like 3 seconds. So that's why it looks like a piece of video here, but it's just one picture. For me, I can cram it over so that it fits here. Now this was just a random, didn't pick that time or anything, but I could have. If I said, a good introduction should be 3 seconds or something, and I set that to 3 seconds, then I can make this picture be 3 seconds. I don't care about looking at the whole film anymore, so now I'm gonna bring the focus in so I can see this much bigger down here, right? Because I got this badass monitor, I can do this if I really needed to. So I'm looking basically at this picture here. I'm gonna highlight the picture, and that gives me an editing screen over here. And now I can do stuff like make it bigger. Oh, see, when I make it bigger, it's all shitty, right? Because this is a crappy picture. So instead of grabbing that picture, I think I'm going to go to this one here, which is probably a bigger picture. And I'll just set it here somewhere on my thing for now. Move this over again. Obviously, if you only had one screen, that's what you have to do. I don't have to. I can stick that over on my other monitor. I'm going to make this bigger for a second. Move this thing over so I can kind of get it to where I need it to be to fit in here. Build that. Drop this one down. So now I'm looking at the new one I just dropped. And when I click it and I have the editable area over here, I can zoom it down. Now it's much clearer. It's like a bigger picture, so it doesn't look all cruddy when I make it this size.
Yeah.
But it's black with the black background. So I'm going to move it up a layer. I'm going to say graphics, new layer, rectangle. And that's going to drop a rectangle here, but I'm going to take this and I'm going to squish it down to there, and I'm going to drop it under that layer. Now it's behind my logo. Make it bigger. Oh, shit. Make it bigger somehow. Oh, I'll make it bigger over here. Boom, made it way bigger. Move it up. Move it to the left. And now it's basically a white background, right? So now I've got a couple of seconds, 3 seconds, 0.29 to be exact, of my logo, and then some video. So next I want to do something with this so it doesn't look just stupid as hell. So I'll go to the beginning of that 3 seconds, and I'll say point, and then I'll go to the end of the 3 seconds. I'll go to the middle of the 3 seconds, and I'll say another point, right? Except now I'm going to maybe scale this up just a bit. And maybe move it over to the left a little bit. And now I'll move over to the right, further down the time, and I will say another point. Now maybe I'll move it down and back over, and then make it get really big. So now, for some reason, I think that looks cool. And if I hit play to preview it, now my little thing animates a little bit. So now that's cool, but there's no song, and that's what you started out wanting. So now I'll zoom back out. Grab everything, cram it over to the left so that there's not just a gap in the beginning of my video, right? Go back, no, I can probably watch the whole thing over here. Go to where my downloads are because I just downloaded a shit ton of these things. Let's grab this one called If I Had a Chicken. Downloaded that one off of YouTube. So now it just looks like a green strip down here, right? And I gotta see how long it is because it's like a 10-minute song or some shit, right? So now I can tell my little thing to be a scissors, and I just cut it right there. And then I can take this piece and delete it. I can go to here somewhere and create a handle or whatever these things are called. I can go like boom right there. And then I can go to about here, and I can go boom again, right? And now I can say, go here, start, and say I want this to be no sound, this to come up to whatever sound, stay whatever sound, go to here, hit another one, and drop it down to no sound again. So now it's, oh shit, I did it way too long though. Oh no, so now I have it start and play this music all the way through, but that's no good, right? because I want there to be a transition here or whatever. So I'm still highlighting the song. I'll make another little divot, and then I don't know, I'll screw with the volume. I'll make the volume go down a little bit, and then like immediately go back up. So hit another little divot, and then bring it up a little bit. Now it's going to be like down, up, down. It's going to do something weird there, right here. I don't know what it is, but let's say I cared and it's what I wanted it to do. So let's say that was an effect. And then when I was all done, I could do some shit at the end here, stick a picture at the end or whatever, right? And then now it's finished. I could save it and then export it or render it. And then in this software, how long do you think this will take me to render?
For that video with your computer, 10 seconds.
It took that long. So that was pretty cool. So then
Yeah.
go over here and click this. Oh shit, where do I have it? I just rendered it to here and here. And then it was named some dumbass name, right? Yeah.
Dude, that's like half the reason I built a new computer. Was because last time I tried to edit a video together, my computer crashed 3 times before it finally got it out, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So that's basically what you're gonna do.
And that's so frustrating, dude. That is so frustrating when you're like, okay, it's got like 2 hours till it's done. So I'll come back in an hour and a half and check on it. And then you come back in an hour and a half and your computer's like blue screen or whatever, you know? Like, damn it.
Yeah. So, but that's basically the gist of it. You take it, you lay it down there, you fiddle with it. Now there's another thing called After Effects, which is, you know, how I was zooming in or whatever. Still on screen share? Yeah, like I was zooming in like this, right? So this whole thing right now is 24 seconds long altogether, right? And then I was looking at this beginning thing where I was screwing with the logo, and that whole thing is like 3 seconds. After Effects would use my whole screen to look at that 3 seconds, and it would be able to do magic in that 3 seconds. It's like Photoshop for video. So it's like a software package that'll almost be like a microscope version of the one I'm using right here.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I use too, is Final Cut Pro. And there are so many intricate little features to that program that I am not... Like, I know how to do a few certain things. I can take videos, cut them, put them together, edit them down, add some text, you know, do this and do that. But there's just... It's complicated, and there's a lot of little intricate things to it. And the more you practice with it, the more you use it, the better you get. And that's definitely something that I've noticed. But yeah, man, there's a lot of it that it's like reading music. I don't know how to do it, you know?
Good part is you can play all these songs over here without YouTube giving you any drop.
Yeah, no, that's totally cool. I like that.
You'll notice, you'll recognize a lot of them if you watch YouTube videos, especially when you do any searches and you flip it to not required. The first couple, you'll almost always recognize them. Just, you know, almost all of the filters have been picked by people before. Most of them are the like happy, optimistic, like jazzy shit. But yeah, there's every once in a while I'll just go in here and you just have to click on this thing and it starts to play them. If they're long enough, I'll listen to pieces of them, because often it starts stupid or whatever. It has like that chicken one, you know, that chicken one over here. It has like a real, I think of it like Charlie Chaplin or something, like old timey.
Dude, like, I was thinking like
black and white movie where they had the piano playing.
Right. I was thinking like Beethoven or something, you know, like something like really old where there's no way that it could possibly have any kind of a copyright on it. And then you take like
there's other stuff, like I have one in here that is sort of like that. That is, I think it's this one, and it's
well, there's this Beats program that I was looking at that you can like make your own like like
Nope.
bass
Nope.
line and beat,
Nope.
and then you take
I bought a thing like that one time
yeah.
and made a bunch of stuff. And not only the pieces that are in it are copyrighted, so even if you use the stuff that's in it, like, it comes as this thing that you can use to do this with. If you use the components that it gives you, it'll tag you on YouTube, and at least the one I bought. And then if you went out and just grabbed snippets, it counts them because it's still a snippet. So if you take at least the thing I was talking about, it was called like a beats thing, like you put a bunch of samples in there and you could fiddle with them so that you didn't have to have an instrument. You just played a sample of an instrument over and over, or some way that, a pattern that gave it a different song or whatever, different characteristic or sound or whatever. But it would keep tagging my stuff every time I used them. So I quit using any of the songs. I had made like 12 songs for videos, and I thought I had figured out a way around back in the day. And I mean, I don't want to. If you can do it for free, do it and see what happens. But if it costs anything, research it a lot. Make sure that the same thing doesn't happen to you. So that's why I quit doing anything. There's no music and nothing. You'll notice then that when my first videos came out, I didn't do any music because it was from the beginning. You couldn't do music on YouTube if you wanted your videos to get seen. They would shut them down back in the day. So my first videos, my friend here in Tucson has a band, I have a friend in a band, right? I have my friend in a band, I guess. But one of my friends who's in a band gave me like 3 songs. So back in when we had all our videos up still, if you'd look at like the first months of our videos, like months and months, it was the same 3 freaking songs over and over and over for like the intro and the outro type of stuff, because I only had these 3 songs that nobody was going to get mad at me about. And just like what Yankee does, I put in there, like, these are from my friend and leave me alone. Like, they're his songs. He said I could use them. And they kind of left me alone. But then I had my friend Charles do that outro. It's like, guys and girls on websites, thank you. He had like a little thing he says. And then that was Word. So I just started using that instead of music completely. And then I didn't use music at all forever until they came out with this stuff. And now if you hear music on my stuff, it's out of YouTube's free stuff.
Yeah, I think it just adds like a level of professionalism or whatever, or like, I don't know, production quality, whatever you want to call it, to be able to do that, and especially like, or not especially, but also in like live chats too, like for the intro and stuff.
Oh yeah, to make the whole production more like polished. Yeah, for sure. I thought you meant like while talking or whatever. It would be distracting.
No. Yeah, not while you're talking, but for like an intro, you have like an intro song, and the song starts playing, and
my goal is to have
like Matt has,
and stuff. Yeah, Matt's kind of doing it. I want to have more like a radio show would have little segment tags or intros or whatever they're called, segment pieces.
Right.
Because then that way, there's, like you say, it's just a nice, whatever, polish to it. It gives it some structure, some framework, and it's audio version of good graphics, I hope. Right? Instead of just being a bunch of slop like this show.
Yeah, man.
So anyhow, what was I going to say about these damn songs? Yeah, anyway, I got a whole bunch of them, so I've just been, like I say, I'll go in every once in a while. I'll be trying to build something, and I had like, let's say 20 of them that I had downloaded, and I use them over and over. I only like a couple of them. Some of them are far out, and they're interesting, but they're not appropriate. They'd sound too stupid to listen to for more than a second or two. But every once in a while, especially now that I'm trying to build these little segments and stuff, I guess what I was saying is I'll listen to the middle of the song sometimes, or like the end or something, where it might start kind of dumb or corny, but then it riffs or something kind of interesting in the middle as it kind of giveaway or throwaway, and then it ends sounds kind of stupid again because of whatever the artist thought was cool. Don't like. So I've done that plenty of times where I'm just saying like something interesting comes out of the middle of a song, and I'll just cut the front off, put the middle in there. Nobody cares or knows that it's just the middle of some song they never heard of, right? And if that little song sounds right for what you're trying to put together. Okay.
Dude, so the duck's getting mad at you for using it too much?
Yeah, and it turns out, I'm pretty sure it's because of the time I'm in it, not just when I run the show, right? because I'm in other people's shows too. And I'm in with my account, right? So I think it counts. But other people would be getting the same problem as me. So maybe it is just my live. I've been doing this show more regular. And sometimes if I
Yeah, I mean, you
don't
pretty much do this
show
show every day, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like 7 minutes long, but then other days it's 2 hours or 3 hours long. And that probably bugs the crap out of them. They probably don't care at all if we did 20-minute shows. They'd let us have as many 20-minute shows as we want. As soon as we start doing hour shows, that's a giant file to scoot around. Like, they're not digging the idea of having hour-long files to have to scoot around when most of them are probably 20 to 30. And then I start doing 2-hour shows. You know, I think the other day, usually I'll get an alert after a long show, probably. So I bet you there's some like alert that comes up and says, hey, this guy's going to stream all night. Get rid of him. Don't start paying for this service.
I mean, I probably do 3 to 4 hours, like, logged in and, like, streaming to my channel per week. You know, and, like, 4 hours probably not. Probably
20,
closer to 3,
20,
but...
20 is what they say the free gets you. So...
20 a week?
20 a month.
Oh, okay.
But that's only 5 a week.
Right.
So
yeah, I'm sitting, like, right under that then.
Daily. Yeah, but I got the stuff, like, at 12 hours or something. I got it way before. And I made a big fuss about it on Instagram. Well, I made a fuss about it on Instagram and bitched about it to them and XSplit to see if anybody would give me the software for free. And they didn't, they were like, oh, don't worry about it. They also don't care. Like, I doubt they're making it. Are they even making money? There's no ads. I guess they're making money by those paying $25 a month. But I don't know how many people are using the thing. They aren't interested in having any, like, celebrity endorsements.
Well, I mean, when they give you, like, 90% of their program for free, they can't expect a whole bunch of people to pay money for the extra 10%, you know?
Well, that's the thing. And even it sounds like a lot, $25 a month. Even if there's like 1,000 people, so $25,000 a month, like, that's really not that much when you think about how much it's got to cost to stream.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Maybe they're getting some kind of, like, I don't know, like, selling information thing like Google does, you know? I don't know what they do.
Well, and that's true. And that would be my concern to some extent. But also, I don't want to invest in infrastructure. We all invested in YouTube in, like, 2008 and 9 is when everybody started to invest time and effort into YouTube. And then it became a thing. I don't know, when you think. By 15, like, YouTube was, everyone in the world knew what YouTube was, and you went to YouTube, check stuff, and you YouTube things, you know, like Googling things. What would you say, about 15, or was it before or after that?
Before that, well, for me anyway, because there was a point probably around 2012 where I just decided I didn't want to have TV anymore.
Well, that's us individually as dudes. We're like the front end of stupid electronic wasting time. So I'm talking like the whole world, as far as like the United States, like the whole population understanding what and the significance of YouTube. You know, I'm saying it wasn't the beginning of it all. It was probably 15 or something, but it was years ago, whatever it was. Like, it's already come and gone, right? Like, everyone knows what YouTube is. Nobody sees YouTube on a TV show and goes, well, wonder what YouTube is, right? So even with all that, I guess is all I'm saying is, you know, we're not done. Like, the internet's not done. So,
how far back does your view history go on YouTube? I wonder what the first video I ever watched on YouTube was.
I have no idea.
There's got to be a way to go back and look.
I know you can go look at history, but I don't know if I've ever filtered it. I want to do that live. Weird shit.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should. That's interesting, though. How far back does it go?
Well, I've seen stuff. I can go back and look at, like, my first sub and stuff like that. So it must go back a ways. Where the hell is it?
Right.
Where is it?
Go to just regular YouTube,
regular
and then
YouTube.
it's the little 3-line thing, and then you go to history on the left.
Yeah, I was logged into. Well, no.
The problem is there's like 20 million videos that I've watched in that amount of time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Can you go backwards? History, search history. View all. No, clear all. Pause. No, you can't like make it go backwards. All you can do is scroll down, so there's no way.
Yeah, that's gonna take forever.
I went to search history and it'll go to like 4 months ago. I scroll down, it'll go back 4 months. I can't even imagine how much stuff I've watched in 4 months on YouTube. Probably an embarrassing number. It's not embarrassing. I make my living on it, right? My YouTube money.
Dude, I just scrolled down twice as far as it will go, and I'm only back to December 9th. I don't think this is gonna...
Yeah.
Finding the first video I watch isn't gonna happen.
They might keep it, but it probably needs more effort for their servers to think about it than it's worth offering it to people. But they could probably figure it out if they needed it, I'm sure. And I'm sure their logarithms use it to determine what to show you.
Right.
And I'm sure they're comparing all of our first searches with what our current searches are, to, you know, to anticipate trends and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's...
Right, well, so we've been playing around with this audio stuff just because I was looking for something to do here to get the chat started. Like I say, the format lately has been a panel discussion. I send out links right away, usually right before the show starts, and then do something to fill some time while the alerts go out to let people know the show started, because it isn't 100% consistent, and it's certainly not consistent with time. I started an hour late today. And then after a while, once the show gets rolling, we see if people jump in. Today, Hunt jumped in, and he asked a question about video editing, so I jumped over to that. Adobe Premiere is the software that I was showing there, and I just did a quick demo on how to throw a couple of videos, put a picture in front of them, fiddle with the picture a little bit, and then add sound, just to add a long way to answer his question and give time for people to jump in or whatever. And anyway, that brings us up to now. So we're about half an hour into the show. I kind of like this format, and everybody can see what I'm looking at here. I still have my screen over here to have my secrets. So you can see what I'm looking at here. Nobody else jumped in. It's just me and Honda, and it's late.
Did you see Jay Monty in the chat says, I've never seen Red Dawn till this month. I finally, after years, understand and appreciate the DGS intro now.
So the intro.
How could you have gone this long without seeing that movie? That was my question. I think I saw that when I was like 8.
Well, there's a lot of people. This is. So basically, they're all sitting around. They just got the radio, and they're listening to it that night. So they had got down to town. You can see they still got their school clothes on and stuff. They haven't even worn them out. They ate all their beans and shit. I think they might have shot one deer, not even shot the deer yet. Went down to limp out, saw that the commies had taken over, instinctually knew that was not the way it should be, and they boogied back up to the mountain. Grandparents gave them the girls. They took the girls on the radio up there. They listened to it for the first time, and it was hitting home for Bob and the rest of them, Robert and the rest of them, that the world's changed and it's time for them to do something because nobody else is going to fucking do it.
Did you like the newer Red Dawn movie at all?
No, not at all.
I thought it was okay. I mean, it wasn't good.
The original Red Dawn is an exercise in understanding and being able, a little bit of a cautionary tale, but more of the reason why we are the way we are, and a little reassurance during the Cold War, because it was during the Cold War. The second one was a pathetic, indulgence in fucking wimpiness and dishonor. There was nothing about the second one that was valid. The second one was a disgrace and a validation of dishonor. Everything that was strong and enforced by the first one, the characters and the story and the events and the actions that they were written to do, all of that was to reinforce individual, rugged self-individualism and the value of
the value of, what's the word, like self-interest. That you can have a self-interest and still be part of a community and still participate and still be valued and offer value. The second one was an excuse for how you cannot and other people can, and it offered exaggerated scene exaggerations and discontinuations of like resources that just appear out of nowhere and no attempt to offer reality. And every time they did something completely dishonorable to their own friends, the people that are their truest allies, they screwed each other, and it was just excuse after excuse for that behavior. It was horrible, and it was to create a story that would show that it's okay to fail and suck and to let somebody else do everything for you. It was a horrible movie. It was the worst movie ever. And then if it had just been a shitty suck movie, that's one thing, but they disgraced the concept of the first one by sucking so bad at not being able to produce anything of value that they had to try to suckle off the first one. It was horrible, shitty. It literally
not to mention the premise of it too, like North Korea or whatever is invading. Like, yeah, fucking right.
It was the coward.
I could see like a bomb or something.
It was supposed to be China, and just the whole the real life part that they cowered to China and called it North Korea was ridiculous. Right. The fact that they're going to bomb a neighborhood and not question, just everything about it was over the top, ridiculous, not realistic, anti-American, anti-individual. It was garbage. It was literally filth. They mocked everything decent about the first movie. It was literally someone hated the first movie and wanted to shit on it and wipe the shit on it in a way that they'd fool a bunch of people into admiring weakness and dishonor. It was horrible. I do not like it. Now, if you talk about tomorrow, the day the World War began, you seen that one?
The day the war began? What
tomorrow,
year is that?
Tomorrow, the day the war began. So that is the actual sequel to Red Dawn, which is a literal, like, the girl version of Red Dawn in what is it? Not Antarctica. What the fucking name is that country? That continent down there? The A in it. Where Vandalistic hangs.
Argentina?
No, the big ass fucking continent. Why can't I think of?
Oh, Australia.
Yeah, I couldn't get Australia out for some reason. Fucking, it's in Australia. It's a bunch of hot chicks, and it's the Chinese for real. So that is the shit right there. And definitely, if you haven't seen that movie, you're lucky, because not only you get to watch another Red Dawn, it's all chicks. They're speaking Australian, and they're kicking the crap out of Chinese people this time.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Plus, I don't know, something about an Australian accent on a hot chick.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Adds a good 2 points to it, especially if she's like redheaded or something. I don't know.
It's a redheaded one. I think she's the like, I'm a nerd and I can't be, I'm awkward or whatever. It's a girl version, but it's good. It's empowering, I think.
All right, I'll check that one out. That's cool, man. I haven't even heard of that one. Is it like a lower budget one or something?
I mean, Red Dawn wasn't. But I don't. It was. No, it's not bad. I mean, it's not distractingly bad. It's not. It doesn't need a big budget. You know, it's just some fake planes flying around. Probably. It's about like the second one, the garbage version of that movie that we made here in this country. The quality-wise, it's the same. I think. Like as far as like I say, it's not like some like student movie where you're like, okay, I'll disregard that horrible effect or what, or like bad audio or weird costumes or anything. It was a decent movie. But I don't know if it's big budget because it's Australia. It could have been giant blockbuster for Australia. I just don't watch enough Australian movies to know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know how many Australian. I'm sure there has to be like a whole genre of them or whatever, you know, but you don't really see them over here very much.
Well, Mad Max.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, there are examples or whatever, but in general, it's not like every other movie's from Australia or anything, you know?
Well, the problem is they speak English, but I bet you they use contraptions like every place else in Asia, right? Like how they have different TV. They got NTSC and we got DTC or whatever the fuck it is, or it was back in the day at least. So I bet you all of their stuff only worked on their VCRs and they never bothered to send it over here. Because like, you got to figure it's a whole continent of people that speak English. And it's got to cost them an arm and a leg to get stuff down there because they're all criminals and they steal everything. So it's easier for them to just make their own movies, right?
Yeah, they'll just bootleg it or whatever.
They'll probably get a certain amount of boats that'll go down there every year anyway because of the cost of gas.
What is the population of Australia? There's only got to be like 50 million people or something?
I don't really know a lot about Australia. No, I know that is. Basically, it's the population of California when we looked that up before. And the people are complaining, they're trying to compare Australia to us. It's pretty much comparable to the state of California, the whole continent of Australia.
They have 24.6 million.
So the entire continent, which is in one country, and that's somehow not wrong, that somehow one country can own the entire continent, and that's all one homogeneous group of people that came in and took it over from the other people that were indigenous. And then those sons of bitches outlawed guns because they're crazy. And there's less people there than in Florida and California.
They killed Crocodile Dundee, the real one.
Crocodile Dundee.
He got killed in a gun confiscation scandal or whatever. And no one knows about that either. Well, not no one, but a lot of people don't know about that.
How many people are in California?
I thought it was like 30 million. Let me look. California has 39.5.
What'd you say Australia was? 30?
25.
Oh, we'll just stand 35. So whatever, let's try in the middle. But yeah, so it's less than California by quite a bit, really. Depending on who you're counting. You said it was 25?
Yeah.
It's less than Texas also. Texas has 28 million people. So Australia can go suck it. And they're bigger than the United States, I think, right?
That's a good question. Land area of Australia?
Yeah, they took basically an entire continent. Look, Oceania, the entire continent of Oceania. Is Australia bigger than the United States? It's about the same.
No, it's not. No, it's not. The United States is 37 or 3.797 million miles squared, and Australia is 2.9. We're an extra million, basically.
Look at this.
Almost.
I asked the stupid ass Google, and it gave me the answer in millimeters. So 7 billion millimeters, and the other one is 9.2. So.
Thanks, Google.
Yeah, worthless, stupid measurements. Like anybody's gonna count fucking that. How big is Australia compared to the rest of them?
Dude, the United States is almost as big as all of Europe combined.
They're exactly the same size.
Just a little bit smaller, yeah.
Only if you don't count Alaska. It's bigger than.
Well, we're 200,000 square miles smaller than they are. So they're 3.93 million, we're 3.79 million.
Again, if you don't count Alaska.
I think that counts Alaska, doesn't it?
No, you're only counting the continental. Because if you take the continental and stick it on Europe, we're basically the same size. If you count Alaska, which is basically half the size of the United States again, then we're way bigger than Europe. Let's look at a map. That doesn't help.
No, because the lower 48 states alone is 3.1 million square miles. So that has to include Alaska.
So we got United States sitting right here, and then we just scroll over stupid Europe. Boom. We cover Europe, dude. Look at how big we are. There's stupid ass Europe, right on top of them, including Turkey and the Black Sea. And then if you take Alaska, you got to give us Finland and Norway and all that shit, all the Nordic. Unless you're counting this as Europe. I don't count Nordica as Europe.
Does Turkey and shit count as Europe too, or is that like Middle East?
No, that's kind of Europe-ish. So we cover that though. Look at how big United States is. Are you looking at my screen?
Yeah.
United States, Europe. Like we definitely cover Turkey and the Black Sea, all of Spain, all of this easily with our United States. Boom. And then you go up here and you grab Canada, Alaska, northern Canada, and then bang, you got to give us all the Nordica. Taking all
Dude, what's crazy
countries.
What's crazy about the Black Sea is that if you go back 12, 13,000 years ago, that was all land. That wasn't like that little peninsula thing was like the sea level was 200 feet lower than it is today. So when it rose, it basically like got to a point where it flowed over and filled that giant valley. And there's supposedly like settlements and little towns and stuff that were around 13,000 years ago that are buried under sediment at the bottom of that little sea. And that's where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Are you sure they're not in the Dead Sea? Because I thought the Dead Sea is somewhere around here, and that's where they come from.
I think it's to the east.
It's not.
Oh, it's the Caspian Sea.
Is that where they come from? Oh no, it's not that. The Dead Sea's little. I thought it was something like this or like this. But this is called near your river, Sea of Azov. Does that mean dead?
I don't know.
Anyway, I got the impression, I haven't thought about it in a long, long time, but I got the impression it wasn't the whole Black Sea. I thought it was a much smaller thing, like inside of a country type of sea.
Yeah.
But
I don't know, where's the Black
I can
Sea? That's a
remember
good question, too.
about it. Or maybe I seen something with Spock, that show that Spock had in search of. I think I remember because they were like, and the Dead Sea Scrolls were up in this cave, and they like zoomed up to this.
Oh,
cave.
no, the Dead Sea is just east of Jerusalem.
Here. Yeah, see, it's a much smaller thing. It was like over on the side over, like just in the hill or whatever. Now, it was a situation where this one is bigger or smaller. That's why it's all salty, right? Because it used to be way bigger or something and it evaporated.
The Caspian Sea?
No, the Dead Sea. Why they call it the Dead Sea. Salt. It's like salt. It's the same as Great Salt.
It's like super salty, right? Like people can you can float in it like and only go down a couple of inches or whatever,
And this whole south side.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of going into the ocean salt water. You get it in your eyes and your mouth and in your nose and stuff.
This
I'm
isn't
sure like
salt water like that though. This is salt water that's been sitting in this stagnant, quote unquote, sea for a billion years. So it hasn't seen fresh salt water in a billion years.
Well, I'm saying it's probably like salt water on crack. Like it's gotta be like way worse.
Yeah, it's gotta be like probably like fermented version of it, right? That's where the study center is. So I don't know if that means that's where they found it or if they're not going to tell you where they found it. The thing I seen was sort of like, before Google Maps, it was some TV show, and they did one of these things. They like came down, I could have sworn they went to this side somewhere, and then they just kept zooming in, and before long, you don't know where you are anymore. And then they just like, almost like this thing can do. They'll just go, then like in literally one of these holes. And they're like, that's where we found the Dead Sea Scroll. Like some sheep guy was just standing there, looked down some hole, and was like, there's stuff in that hole.
No, I think what I was thinking of was in like the Black Sea is where they found a bunch of original versions of the Bible that made it to the Council of Nicaea, which is where they took like there was like hundreds of different versions of the like different books of the Bible, and they kind of like distilled it down into like 12 or whatever, or 13 books or whatever's in the Bible now. And so there's a bunch of books of the Bible that never made it to the final cut, and they found a bunch of them in the Black Sea. That's what I was thinking of.
So how come we're over here and it's green? Look where it's green, right? It's green from like here down to here. It's all green. And then if you go to the middle of this giant continent, it's all green. Like the whole damn thing. You got some mountains over here where it ain't green. I mean, it's still green in there, but it's not as green as all this, right? But look how green that continent is. We got all of this green, and then we got some mountains here where it ain't green. And then go over to this continent. This ain't all mountains. Like, how come there's this big barren spot here? Why is this?
That used to be rainforest, if I remember correctly. Like, all of that used to be rainforest. And then desertification, I don't know exactly why. Climate change? I don't think that's anything to do with us, though, because that's been going on for thousands of years.
I don't ever remember seeing this being green. I mean, I can remember seeing this be all white when I was a little kid. All this was white all the time. You saw pictures, or if you got a globe or something. You never saw these islands. You never saw this bay, really. You never saw this bay connected to anything. It just looked like a lake up there. This was all snow. Like, I don't even know if Greenland was disconnected there anymore. Like, this was just all snow up here. And you figured you could just walk across, you know. It was just all snow. And now you don't see anything. It's all farming thing, trying to make it look like no snow anymore. But this part has never been like that. So that seems interesting to me, like why that piece of the planet is all dead.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Because that's a pretty significant. It's not like 15 people did some dumb thing.
Well, Africa's huge. Like
know,
you're talking about like landmass. Like Africa is the biggest freaking continent by far.
This is how big we are, and that's like 1, 2, or 3 of us stacked in here. You know, like, that's a chunk of stuff. And how come it all just turns to rock? That's just tons and tons of rock. There's sand and rock and nothing. Up with that. Nobody ever questions that. I don't see you talking about that in your conspiracy chats ever. Yeah, I can understand like a mountain having, you know, no rain on top of a mountain or something.
Well, look at Saudi Arabia. The Saudi Arabia's got like barely any green in it in the whole country. And it's always been like that.
It has, but so is this. Yeah, I don't know. But that's where the pyramids are. Did they do something? Are they doing something? Did they create something up there?
Well, that's why the pyramids are where they are, because they were on the Giza, like, plateau. They were right by the Nile River with the Nile flooding basin.
See the absolute bottom. Oh, that should come up here. Oh, you want to see the top? No problem. Actually, you can't look right down on it either. What's up with that, Google? Why can't I look at the bottom of this whole thing?
You see that guy who walked across Antarctica with no help by himself?
Yeah. 2 hours before the other guy that walked behind him.
Why didn't they walk together? That's messed up. They should have walked together.
Well, I think they sent the other guy to make sure he didn't wander off track.
Right. Or like
Oh,
cheat somehow. That is cool.
So there's the sun against the galaxy. So too bad you can't zoom in on another planet yet. You only get to zoom in on Mars.
Like, look how many lights are in the United States. Now do that in Africa.
Well, you can't.
You can't make it dark over there?
Well, it's trying to show you today, like right now.
Oh, okay.
Where it's dark right now. But look, if I try to take my little dude and drop him on the sun, well, nothing. I already seen at least one documentary on the sun. What happens with the dusty? Oh shit! I'm in the rainforest.
Damn.
Look, I found something. What did I find? Is that a giant lobster? That looks like a giant lobster.
What is that? That is a giant lobster.
That is a giant lobster, dude. You just dropped out of space and found the world's. There's no way, dude. Look at the size of these plants. It's a giant lobster.
You just dropped out of space and found a monster. And a dude.
You should watch out for this giant lobster. That's
Looks like he got eaten.
Take a picture of that thing. It eats us. The fuck is this guy? He's like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to smash that lobster all up and then take a Google image of it. That's weird. So now let's try somewhere civilized. Nice. We're gonna take a Snowmass Lake. This guy's camp. What's he got? Got some kind of a hatchet or machete? Machete? Walking stick? Oh, it's probably maybe it's a walking stick. Why'd they bring this bucket? What's in this bucket? Who the hell brings a bucket up here? Oh, maybe for fish?
Fishing? Yeah, it's got to be.
Any fish in this thing? It's kind of neat.
You ever go fishing, G?
Oh yeah, I've gone fishing quite a bit.
Dude, there's this place in Colorado. It's like cheater fishing, called Shadow Mountain Lake, and they basically built this spillway on Shadow Mountain Lake to go to like let water drain down the eastern slope instead of letting it all go down the western slope, so they could divide the water up a little bit, you know. Well, all of these lake fish get swept down the spillway, and they don't want to be in the river because they're lake fish, so they try to swim back up the spillway. But they all get stuck in this one spot because they can't go up, you know, it's like a concrete, like, slide, right? And if you drop your line in there, like, you don't even need bait. You just drop your line in there and kind of bob it up and down, and you'll hook a fish and bring it up and be like, it's only like 8 pounds, throw it back. It's amazing fishing. And they taste, it's so good. I don't know, like, I'm not exactly a experienced good fisherman, so I'll take any cheater methods I can get, and that's where I go fishing whenever I go.
When I was a little kid, I grew up where there was fishing everywhere. So when we were really bored, when we were interested in doing it, we would go fishing, and you could go fishing anytime you wanted. So that was more like, some years we were interested, and some years we weren't, whatever. But it was always available. But then additionally, every summer we would go to Minnesota to go fishing, which was basically like, really going fishing. Like, there was plenty of fishing up there. And that's all we did, is we'd fish for weeks. So we'd go up there and fish fish for all different kinds of fish in different ways and different places, go into Canada and stuff. So we've done a lot of fishing. And then every once in a while, for some occasion or something, we'd go to some of the big lakes, the Great Lakes, and go fishing on there. And that's kind of scary almost. I don't know if you've ever been fishing on those, but I'm right here next to one right now. Their waves and stuff the Edmund Fitzgerald went down, a giant ship went down, and it's not a lake. It's an ocean, really. So when you get out 3 miles into it, there's massive waves and massive fish and stuff. So it's not really ocean fishing, but it's very much like it. It's nothing like fishing in a regular sized lake or anything. So the Great Lakes are interesting. I fished in a couple of those, but that was like big boats. You're part of a charter, like you're watching, you're just observing and being part of it, but very little interaction, just experiencing it. But yeah, tons and tons of fishing. I haven't fished in a long time though, but I guess the reason I'm explaining all that is I have fished, and we fished for like food, I guess you could say, back in Minnesota, going up to Minnesota. And when you fish for food, it's kind of almost like work, like you're not enjoying after a while as much as like first learning and then accomplishing. So if we were up there for weeks, we were trying to pay off the trip and come back with a lot of fish. So we weren't experimenting or having fun or trying new things. We were just going up there and following recipes, right? Following things that worked in the past and doubling down or whatever. So that was sort of like work. So when I go fishing now, I like to play around. I don't really care if I catch a fish or not. I actually really don't care at all if I catch a fish. I go fishing, to look around, and to basically have an excuse for people to leave me alone, to go hang out at a lake all day. But
the Great Lakes
in a lake and playing in a boat.
The Great Lakes contain 21% of the world's surface fresh water.
Wow.
5,472 cubic miles of water. Or how many? 6 times 10 to the 15th gallons. That's 6 quadrillion gallons of fucking water. How did those form, dude? How did all of that water end up there? That's my question. Is that like Is that an effect of like the end of the ice age, like the glaciers melting and stuff, or were they there before that?
The glaciers that smoothed all this area out. When they retreated, I guess they scooped all this out and left this here.
Hmm.
I don't know how that makes any sense because they're deep as shit. I don't think this thing will show you, but
Well, if you go to Glacier National Park, that is the very spot where the Great Flood of North America 12,500 years ago began. Like that's where there was an ice dam that held back like trillions and trillions of gallons of water that broke and then let it all out at one time, and it flowed basically westward over the like Oregon and Washington and stuff, and left these like ripples in the land that are a mile across and like 50, 60 feet high. And when you look at like a little like riverbed, you see those little ripples that are like an inch across and like half an inch high. Like that's what they are in Oregon and Washington, like from where that water broke through. But I don't really know anything about the Great Lakes and how they formed. So that's an interesting question to me. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, all I know is what I just said, like the concept that they came down, they were huge, and then they scraped all this out on the way out. But that doesn't still explain why this little section has giant holes. Although there are big ass holes in Canada too, so it could just be that something about maybe these are volcanoes or something, like something about them was different, so they were able to dissolve or something or get compressed more.
Well, think about how much weight that is. Like if you have like 2 miles of ice sitting on top of something, like how much weight is that? Like you're pushing the earth down, you're compressing the crap out of it,
That's what I mean. So maybe this is where stuff squirted out. Who knows? I don't. I mean, somebody's put a lot of effort. Well, I guess it shows you how deep stuff is. So comparatively, they're not that deep, but compared to human beings standing next to them, the deepest shit. They're just not as deep as the deepest ocean or whatever. But it looks like you could, for the distance it would take you to get from Chicago to cross to Michigan, if you spent that much time in the water down in Colima, you would be off this shelf and over way deeper water. You'd spend just as much time in a boat, but you'd be over way deeper water. So that must change something here quite a bit. Looks like this whole side of everything is pretty steep until you get up to California here, where we got like a ramp.
Yeah, those little trenches and crap.
Yeah, it'd be neat to talk to somebody who's into geology, can know this stuff off the top of their head better, because I understand some of it, like you're saying, like it's just bigger and smaller versions of the same concepts, but paying all attention to the time frames and stuff. I took geology classes enough to like understand it and pass, but not take more than like maybe the second level or something. Like I didn't pursue it. I just needed science credits, and that was interesting, and I liked it, but I didn't attain it.
Yeah, there's this guy named Randall Carlson, and he's all into. I mean, he's a geologist, but he's all into like that era of human history, like that unwritten part that we don't really have any information about, like trying to figure out what happened during that time. He would be a really, really interesting person to talk to and ask these kind of questions to, because he would probably have the answers.
There's like people out there, if anybody wants links, we can get them. Let's see, I don't know what New York attracted back there. He told something. Something was. These are all old. So then we got Pants and Ape and Pink out there, I think, right now. Pants is definitely close to Lake Erie. He's saying it's a fish. And then I'll see.
I mean, that makes sense though. Like I live like 30 minutes from the mountains, and I don't go up there very often. kind of like you take for granted what's in your backyard, I think, right? Like whatever it is that you have easy access to, you kind of forget that it's there a lot of the time because you get busy with life.
Well, it's certainly easy to think like, oh, I'll just do that next week, or I can do that anytime. Yeah, and then you never actually do any of it.
Right.
But at least for me, when I came out here, I couldn't get enough of some of the stuff, and now it's not so much. You don't need 3 hours to go up the mountain. You spend an hour going up there, and you notice the things that are different, and you go do the one or two things you want to do, and then occasionally you take a trip to discover something new, or you take a little extra time going up or down. But you know what I mean? Like once you've got it kind of covered, you don't need to spend as much time exploring. So that's just not you're just more efficient, I guess.
Dude, I've got a buddy who has made a family activity out of going up to the mountains and picking a spot on a river and panning for gold. And he was telling me like a month ago they found like it was like a $5,000 nugget of gold while they were panning. And I'm like, damn, dude.
You're not gonna find nuggets necessarily, although you're in mountains, Austin.
Yeah.
But you're not exactly in gold territory, so that I wouldn't go around expecting that or anything. But like I know people that are really serious about panning for gold will go to existing claims. So it is possible to go to claims that are paying off, and you just rent or you join a club basically, and you kind of rent the claim and you have access to it. You still got to put in the elbow grease, but you have legal access to a place that's got cater. And then you just go there and do it, work with your club and do it. But then you can go to, well, I guess it depends on where your friend was. When you just say up a mountain, I was going to say you can go to places like we call it culverts, especially in a mountainy area with rocky stuff, in order to distribute the erosion. You can't stop erosion, but you can create a diversion to point the erosion where you want it so that you can maintain a road or whatever easier. In those culverts and shit, you go pan those areas where like man-made traps or man-made funnels have been created. But if those aren't already on claims, you're probably going to fight with people because people aren't stupid and it's good money. And you're right. I mean, there's literally just gold laying around. So I know people that do that. There's one of the guys that started on websites with me does that. He's all into gold. He'll go out on a family camping trip and he'll definitely bring his panning stuff, but sometimes he'll even bring detectors and other stuff. Detecting is also neat. You can detect not just the raw stuff, but the dug up stuff, like the stuff that gets discovered by somebody else and they just don't think about it, and you go discover the gold that they dug up. That happens quite a bit with construction and stuff. And then natural stuff, like I was saying with the roads, but then rings, obviously rings and jewelry and things. Depending on where you are, there could be decades, if not hundreds of years of people fiddling around areas, and people have lost stuff since, somebody first had something, second person that had something lost something. So people have been losing metal forever. And then things die, people die, stuff happens, you lose something that's made with, has gold in it, something that had gold sewed into it, and it gets dropped and nobody realizes that it has gold in it. 1,000 years later, it's just a piece of gold. So it could be lucrative, and it could be super interesting. Again, it's like fishing. If you're only looking at the fish, then you got to do it like a machine, and you got to put the time, you got to do it right. Probably some equipment. But if you're just having fun and it's like an excuse to get out and walk around, or a reason to be standing in the water when everybody else is not standing in the water, and you get a bracelet every once in a while or a ring, then it's kind of neat. And every once in a while, people that discover rings and stuff can bring them back, like a little old lady or some newlywed or something. And that's got to be even a bigger payoff than the $15 you would have pawned it for, right? Like being able to help somebody out.
Yeah, I was watching the
Vietnam ring or something.
There's this guy who does YouTube videos who lives in Hawaii who he does scuba. He snorkels in the shallows and brings a metal detector with him. And he'll go through the shallow sand, and he'll find 2, 3, 4 gold rings in a day. you know, in just like one afternoon, and then he'll go to the hotel and be like, "Hey, is anyone missing a ring or whatever?" and try to like track down the person, and if he can't, then he'll sell it. But yeah, he tries to find the people first. But I think he makes a decent amount off his YouTube because he gets like millions of views on his like every video. So I don't even think he like I'm sure the money means something to him, but you know, it's not like that's the reason he's doing it anymore.
Well, plus, and then it's access. Like everybody else might look at you funny if you're just snorkeling around someplace that's kind of inappropriate. But if you got a metal detector and you're like, "Hey, I found a ring," it's just like your ring, little old lady. Like nobody gives a shit if you're snorkeling around there anymore, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
totally.
kind of fun.
Yeah, they're happy that you're doing it. Totally. But yeah, I mean, like, there's got to be, like, especially in those like really really ritzy like super rich vacation spots on like nice beaches. Like, you could make a living doing that. I don't know.
Pink is over there moping because he's going to be all alone for Christmas. So Christmas is on like a weekday, right? We'll have a DGS going. Yeah, Wednesday. So we'll have a DGS. More than likely.
Can't believe it's less than a week away, man. You got all your Christmas presents bought?
I am a single dude. You gotta worry about all that
So
stuff.
you're set?
Yeah, I don't have to worry about any of that stuff that you people have to worry about.
Oh man.
I say like thank you to people and don't bother people, and then I'm in and out. Worry about it.
I spent more this year than I was planning on. But I mean, part of it, a good chunk of that was building that computer, you know, like, and that's not only for the kids, but that's for me too, so that's for everybody. So, but yeah, man, I'm freaking broke right now because of Christmas. Stupid Christmas.
I don't come from a giant family with a bunch of stuff either, so I was never a big holiday person or what.
Well, like when the kids were little, you know, you go to the store, you buy like a Matchbox car for $1, and they're super happy, and they play with it for the rest of the day, and that's all they ever wanted, you know? You get to be about 13, like, I don't know.
I don't know. See, it's different times, of course, and just different people or whatever. But like, my parents were divorced and shit. Like my dad, he would never give me shit for Christmas. Like that. I didn't expect anything, and it was just sort of like, I'm not. You never said it, I don't think, but it was sort of like you're gonna do something just because a bunch of people told me to do it, right? And out of nowhere, he would just buy me something, or maybe for like my birthday, I got presents. He wasn't weird or nothing, but for Christmas, I got like a flashlight or something, like a knife. $5 knife. Like, here's your token Christmas present. I mean, I'd make a big deal. I mean, we did enough that my grandma was happy, but you know, he's a dude, so we never really got into it. I never cared because I wasn't looking forward to a bunch of garbage, waste of time either. But then out of nowhere, if I needed something or whatever, like, you know, he was a good dad, so I didn't have to worry about Christmas being like make it or break it, or like comparing my presents with friends and stuff. Like, it was never a thing. Like, oh, you got some amazing presents and someone else got amazing present. Like, I got a knife, or I got a flashlight or something, or I got something practical usually for scouts. So I didn't, for the most part, I can't say that forever, but like, yeah, like so for that part, I think that was decent, like not going overboard or making Christmas like regressive things at the work, like every year it has to get bigger kind of thing.
Is there a Christmas movie that you have to watch every year?
I don't have to do shit. I don't like Christmas. No, I mean, I'm making it sound a lot better than it was. So I'm just trying to say, as far as the presents go, like I never, from my dad at least, I never got to like, you know, oh, what am I gonna get my kid, or you know, that kind of shit. It was like, here's the obligatory, so your grandma's not mad at me. There's a flashlight or something.
Yeah, but I mean, there's got to be some sort of tradition that you know, I don't know.
No,
I guess there
said all
doesn't
that
have
stuff.
to be.
I
But
moved away, so I didn't have to deal. I did not like Christmas or Thanksgiving or any of this time of year. I moved away, so I did get away from all that stuff. And I am happy when I can allow people to do their thing and they leave me alone. Like, I am not into all that stuff. So no, I don't have any kind of traditions other than being aware that other people aren't around, and YouTube got quiet for years, and like the internet used to shut down during Christmas. aside from being aware of it, I don't think.
Yeah, I have to watch National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation every Christmas in the morning while we're opening presents. That movie is always playing in the background.
Which one?
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Oh.
That is my favorite Christmas movie, and I know a lot of people will say Die Hard or whatever, yada yada yada. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But for me, it's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Christmas, so that wasn't going to appeal to me. I never liked the dude in the camper. Like that guy I didn't like that guy, and he was a big part of that movie. And then
And you're supposed to not like him.
I just don't like him as an actor, so he never,
okay.
liked that part. I like Chevy Chase quite a bit, but I just never liked that guy, so he was always like my least favorite part of those. But yeah, and then that one I'm just saying it's like a bunch of him in it. And then I guess they all had him in it to some extent. But anyway, so I never really dug that one too much. But like I said, the Christmas thing would have never won me over. But I could see it. Thought you had a niece, so nothing for Mello. I don't give nothing to my dog, nothing. But my family doesn't live anywhere near here, so I don't have to worry about her stealing her. Plus, there's all kinds of other issues with her sister and stuff. So I'm not worried about them stealing my dog. But I don't even know. I'd have to start sitting here counting. I have multiple siblings with all of them pretty much have kids, multiple kids. So some of them don't live anywhere near me. Most of them don't live anywhere near me. But I know at least one set of them, like one sister's kids, would definitely take my dog. They basically are hippies and live on a farm. They would definitely take my dog and add it to their pile of dogs. I would have to be careful with them. But they live very far, so I'd have to drive really far.
Yeah, I do like it.
Seem to last the longest. Still have my mag light multi-tool from Christmas when I was 7. I don't know. I can understand why practical gifts are lame. Like, I can understand that. And that's one of the reasons I don't try to even get into it. For a while, I tried to give gifts like you say, when a kid's little, it's real easy. You give them a Lego or something. They're super happy they got something, period. If it's anything that isn't poisonous or like sharp, then they're going to play with it, right? And then who cares if they don't like it 3 days later, because it was an insignificant thing. But later on, when you're trying to like give a 13-year-old, like you're saying 13, but I'm thinking like a 16-year-old or something. Like you probably, I don't know shit, but I bet you can't make a 16-year-old happy if you gave him $100 and gave him the afternoon off. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing you could do to make a 16-year-old happy, right? So that just seems like an effort.
I don't know. It depends on the
16-year-olds. For the uncle.
Some 16-year-olds just walk around being like melancholy, like, and yeah, you're right with those. There's nothing that you can do to make them happy. But there's a lot of like 16-year-old kids who are pretty generally like upbeat and happy individuals,
Oh, you're true. You're true. You're not like that. I'm just saying, as far as the practical gift thing, that's what I would probably tend to do. That's what I did for the quinceañera. Gave her a flashlight and a bag. But I also wanted to do that. I didn't know what to get a 15-year-old girl, right?
I wouldn't know either.
And I kept asking people, and they said gift cards. And I'm pretty sure I didn't want to give her a gift card because I know her. Like, I don't want to give her a somebody I know her. No. So I figured I'd be the dude that gave her a fucking flashlight and a bag. So the bag is sort of like her mom has this, what is it? I was going to say 5'11", but it's not. It's an Expedition that's got a bunch of shit pockets on it. She wears it like a purse, right? So I figured her daughter might like something like that. So it's sort of like that. But then my ulterior motive was that her 13-year-old brother would get pissed that he didn't get a flashlight. Because it's definitely something a 13-year-old kid would like. Dude would like. So that's why I did that. But like I say, I'm sure that was probably not the best thing to do. I should have got her something more useful to her, right? Like a gift card to someplace she could get shoes or something stupid that a 15-year-old girl.
Well, it's like when a non-gun person.
But I don't. That's a quinceañera. I don't know shit about a quinceañera either, right? Like that was all new to me. But Christmas, I'm not an idiot. Like if I give a kid socks or something practical for Christmas, and that dick who gave you something practical for Christmas, like I wasn't even trying. So my tendency is to give you something practical, so I just say, get the hell out of there, so I'm not embarrassing myself with a kid or whatever.
Well, it'd be like a non-gun person is like, wow, that G-Webs is really a great guy. I want to get him something for his gun collection, right? What do I get him? Like, no matter what he buys, he's going to be wrong.
No, exactly, and that's why it's always been frustrating. Like, if you're seriously know somebody, like you really know somebody, obviously you know what to get them. It's not even a question. You know they're missing something, and they're not going to be offended by you buying them a $7 thing that has significance to something, or I mean, like a real gift. But like, here, let me buy you something. Like, then you spend too much money on something you already have, or you didn't want, or you don't need, and then it's like awkward. Now, like, it just becomes, I don't know. So little insignificant gifts, sure. But,
I'm just saying, like even if they know you, they like know G-Webs, right? And they know that you are into this and that, and you like this kind of gun or whatever. But they don't know what you have. They don't know what you need. They don't know what your next thing that you're gonna like spend your own money on.
Well, have you ever watched Cutlery Lover?
What's that?
You ever watched Cutlery Lover? He's a YouTube channel.
No, I have never heard of him actually.
Yeah, he's a dude in Pennsylvania, and who works with post office. And for the longest time, he was a decent-sized channel back in the earliest days of YouTube. He was one of the first channels I ever watched, and got the idea that you could do something with YouTube instead of just use it as a place to store videos, right? Because he would do all kinds of interesting stuff, and he probably still does all kinds of interesting stuff. He'll do knife reviews, I guess, is the like vaguest way to describe it, but so much more. He'll just play around, have fun, and do different things. And part of that is at Christmas time every year, like he's got a pretty, I guess now you'd have to call it like barely medium-sized fan base. He's probably larger than me, but he might not be. He's my size or smaller. He's like larger than some of you didn't do nothing on YouTube, but he's not like the biggest channel on YouTube or anything anymore. But he used to be significantly large on YouTube for the size of everybody back in the day. And his followers, his subscribers, or whatever you want to call them, are, I mean, really, really into his channel. So when he would, on his birthdays and on Christmas, he would have his address all the time in there. People would just send him stuff randomly. But on Christmas and his birthday, like a lot of people sent him stuff. And that was interesting as hell to watch this dude like open up gifts. I think he would wait on Christmas until Christmas Eve or something, and then on his birthday, he did them on his birthday. And he would just get like, I don't want to say hundreds of things, like just tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff, right? And I mean, it was interesting to watch or whatever, but one of the reasons I do my channel the way I do it is because I would never want to foster. I would never, I mean, I'm a hoarder, but I still wouldn't, you wouldn't want to, you imagine just getting hundreds of things a couple of times a year? Like, do you hold on to that stuff, like because somebody sent it to you and it has a value or a meaning or something, or you don't need to sell it? Like, I don't know what Jeff kind of trades it. I guess people understand that it's going to kind of go into his ever-changing collection, and I think they send it to him so that understanding that he'll use it to trade and stuff. But I guess what I'm getting at is if you were to create something where people were just sending you a bunch of stuff, then you would collect, well, you would just accumulate a ton of stuff. You need to get a bigger place, a place to store it.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I've kind of got one of those personalities where, like, I get obsessed with something, and then I have to learn everything that I can possibly learn about that thing. And if it's, like, like a physical item, like, I have to have, like, the entire collection of it. And for me, when I was a kid, it was baseball cards first, right? And then it was, like X-Men cards. And then it was, like, Magic cards after that. And then it was, like, I don't know, like, I did a whole bunch of different weird stuff. But then I got into guns after a while, and then it had to be like, oh, well, I don't have this kind of gun. I don't have a gun for this situation. So then I like got this huge collection of guns go. I don't know. I think maybe that's a personality trait of people who collect guns. They probably do that with other things too, or at least have in the past.
I guess it kind of depends. If you're if you're of that mindset, you're going to say somebody who collects guns, right? And think that, but somebody who's practical, who is just carrying for defense and is just owning a couple of guns for hunting and is only owning them for practical reasons, but then figures out that competition shooting is interesting because they were practicing for hunting trap and they decided to choose, something else that required another gun. And then they would say, I'm collecting guns, but not in the same respect. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of, whatever the word is, diversity or types of gun owner for sure. And not all of them are set to acquire. I was acquiring for a long, long time and I had no reason to not acquire. But then it was just like, wait a minute, I don't get the same reason. I don't get the same out of acquiring anymore. And
I think I'm getting to that point now. Like, I don't really have anything else that I need that I don't have on, like, that particular... I mean, I'm sure there's something that I'm not thinking of, right? That if you put it in front of me and I had the money in my pocket, I would probably buy it, but I'm not really looking at guns right now like, what do I want next,
Well, I mean, when you're talking collecting, like, at some point, I've got multiple collections and whatever, it's just that, and I was enjoying it and I could justify collecting for all kinds of reasons. So it didn't cost much. None of my collections are really all that expensive, really, considering. And anyway, like I said, I just got to a point where I was like, oh, okay, and then the need to acquire stock and then the need to possess even is different. So, and there's no right or wrong, right? It's just a whatever time of life or ability or whatever, whatever the circumstances are, was what I'm looking for. Like,
What?
Everybody's different or whatever, but anyway, I'm just saying everybody's not doing everything for the same purpose, and everybody doesn't stay the same forever. They will change, but I don't think everybody goes from polar extremes necessarily.
Well, I spend a lot more money on ammo and other things than I did at first. Because at first it was like, ooh, I need this gun. Okay, I have one box of ammo for it. I'm good, Because, I wanted to buy the next gun. And if I buy a whole bunch of ammo for the gun that I just bought, then it's going to be a really long time till I get the next one. So I don't need a bunch of ammo. I'll shoot it once. It's good, Versus now, I'm like, ooh, I want 1,000 rounds of 223 because it's a deal if you get 1,000. Okay, let me save up and get that,
If you didn't have a Y2K, and it depends on how seriously you take, like, the Virginia situation or any of the other, like, calls to prep over the years. And again, there hasn't been anything like the Y2K one in a long time where so many people were interested in I guess prepping or stockpiling, acquiring a bunch of quantity of ammo and other stuff. So I guess you could say with some of the scarcity, and then with some of the concern about politics, there was stockpiling, but that was more reaction. I think. Well, I guess it's Y2K's reaction too, but it was less methodical and less like thought out and budgeted. But I was going to say that no matter what, somebody coming into it post Y2K, right? So that's the last 20 years. So coming into it in the last 20 years, you're in a different situation than anyone who had resources 20 years ago. Because if you had any resources and any concern 20 years ago, you acquired so much ammo that you're still sitting on it. There's no way you could have shot it all. And, unless you're literally shooting it out of your stockpile every weekend, which I guess some people might have done. But you know what I'm saying? Like, not everyone has the same need to stockpile, and what people consider stockpiling is different. Some people consider 100 rounds stockpiling. 100 rounds for a bolt action, wow, that's a lot. Or some people say 1,000 rounds for a pistol, that's a lot. And then the other extreme is going to blow other people's minds, right? Like, there's a lot of difference there between what people consider stockpiling.
Dude, when Y2K happened, I was 18 years old. And, that night, December 31st, 1999 to 2000, a couple of my friends and I had spent all of our money on getting a hotel downtown so we could like go out on New Year's Eve and drink downtown and have a hotel to stay at and party, and stuff. And my sister freaked out on me and like did not allow me to leave the house because she was like sure that some shit was going to go down on Y2K. And like to this day, my friends who were there at that thing will tell stories of the things that happened that night. Like the crazy stuff that happened and this and that. And I never got to partake in it, and I'm still kind of bitter about it because nothing happened. But my sister meant well, so can't be mad at her for it. But yeah, I mean, like,
Well, plus there's a good chance that Jersey's enhancing all that shit to fuck with you.
well, I mean, people I think who weren't around for that event don't realize how, I don't know what the right word is. Crazy is not the right word, but how much people bought into it, and like how a bunch of people were doing a bunch of things at that time, like getting ready for the
Well, think
Boogaloo.
about how many times people like yourself who prey on the innocent every Sunday with your chicken cry, or was it? Yeah, chicken cries wolf. No, chicken says the sky's falling. That was a chicken.
Chicken Little.
Yeah, Chicken Little says the sky is falling, right? So your sky falling episodes, where this is the most important thing and we're all going to die. And this is the most important thing we're all going to die. This is the most important thing we're all going to die. In 2000 and 1999, the internet didn't exist hardly yet. Like nobody. I mean, I guess that existed on time, but there were like 14 people watching it, not 14% of the population watching it. So, there was no comparison to any kind of like contemporary concern about prepping. Like anything now is with the knowledge of what didn't happen then, and with like the callous or whatever we've seen so many concerns that were ultimate and so many like things to be prepared for that people just take everything with a grain of salt now compared to back then. Like that wasn't, well, for one thing, no one was sure that it wasn't a scam. It wasn't like one person pulling it over. It wasn't like the people selling prepared food all winked at each other and said, hey, worry about Y2K. And everybody fell for it. It was from the top down. It was from the engineers who created whatever the languages were that said, uh-oh, we might have screwed up here. Like we had no idea this stuff would still be in existence. We had no idea you'd build chips based on this and never incorporate this concept of 2000 into it. Like, uh-oh, we might have failures at hardware level that stop infrastructure for the entire world. Like we might really be in trouble. We had like NASA and the Department of Defense and lots of effort and energy, money and resources. And there was people with ways and means that were getting out of Dodge that had the knowledge and weren't just jumping out of Dodge every time the wind blew. So it was a different situation then, and every single thing since, because that was such a lead up with nothing. There was just no way. That was the first of every single time since then. The entire set of people who just sit around watching, the observers, got to say, ha. They got to Ralph Wiggum everybody. Oh wait, it's not Ralph.
Yeah.
Who's that guy?
No, that's solely Nelson.
Yeah, they Nelsoned everybody. So they got to Nelson everybody, and then they were justified. Like, we didn't think nothing would happen, or we couldn't afford to prep, or, we didn't understand, or we didn't get confused, or we didn't care, or we didn't understand, and now we're laughing. Whatever the story was, they laughed after, and then now they can justify that every single second, every single time something happens that doesn't happen, they can go, further proof that you're all a bunch of paranoids or whatever. But does that make anybody wrong? No. This means, whatever. You can look at it however way you want to. But anyway, so
Y2K,
talk about
Y2K did. Oh, good. Sorry.
I guess I was just gonna finish with when you talk about somebody's prepping nowadays, it's just minor leagues, I think, compared to what people prep back then, because we had less to prep and more resources to prep because we hadn't provided our resources at that point. There was no, cell phones and cable plans. I mean, there's barely cable television and video games to waste your money on. So there was still money in the economy. The internet bubble was in the middle of growing. People had tons of money to spend on prepping, and they did so in levels that would blow people's minds. I mean, way more than what people consider even, like a lot compared to
What percentage of the population do you think preps? Do you think today, like right now?
10%, maybe a little more, 10 to 20-ish, maybe I guess you can grow to 20 maybe. And I'm thinking that's because of the Mormons and because of the old people that experienced the Depression. If you ask me in another 10 years, I think it'll be less, and then maybe less. Because I don't think that's like a resilience that's built into us. I think that comes from core foundations, and those are small. Percentage-wise.
I mean, because I wouldn't consider myself a prepper, because I'm not. Like, I don't have, like, all the things that a prepper would have, but I would say that I'm better off as far as, like, I've got a good amount of food that's not gonna go bad, and I've got, like, a fair amount of water just, like, sitting there ready to go. Like, I'm better than most people. But, like, if the faucets ever stopped working and the food trucks stopped showing up, like, people are gonna be in a bad way, man. And I think that it would behoove everyone to have a good month's worth of food and water on hand, just in case. Because then at least, like, if the shoe drops or whatever you call it, at least you're not, like, scrambling immediately for food. Like, within the first 24 hours, you're like, shit, the kids are hungry and we have nothing. So I think there's a level of prepping that is reasonable, that everyone can do, that you don't have to, like, devote your life to, that, you can just have, like, some space in a closet and you're set, not set, but you're better off than 90% of the population.
No, you can be set. So first off, it's the same as some guy was selling 4 old single shot 22 Derringers. So you're talking the kind where the barrel pivots off to the side. But even if you're not, if they're decent looking, from what I understand, a lot of those single shot 22 Derringers are for presentation, like you retired or thanks for 10 years in the job or whatever. Thank yous. So sometimes those can have value even if they're not super fancy, if they're not yet engraved, because they're inexpensive and be engraved, and they can hold an engraving. There's like a lot of surface to engrave. They're neat because they're a gun and they're small and they're inexpensive, so they're a whatever, like they can have value as a to be engraved gift. But don't just start engraving old ones, because some of them are just valuable because they're old Colts or something. But as far as you were saying prepping, and you were saying you were talking about having just like a little bit or whatever, you can, if you go dehydrated, you can have a closet between like 5-gallon bottles of water stacked. You can get these things that like an office would get or like a school would get, to stack a bunch of those things in a small area. And you got to have somebody who can handle stacking them 3 high or 4 high. But if you can handle the weight, or get some sort of a little contraption to help you lift up a full one, which you can easily do with a little pulley system and a little ingenuity, right? You can stack 4 or 5-gallon things of water, 8 5-gallon things of water in a closet, do a rotation thing on them so that they don't all sit there too long, and then still have room in a standard closet for a buttload of 5-gallon buckets of dehydrated food. So I was going to say, there's all kinds of levels. We could take it to any time you want. I have coffee in me and there's people around, even though we're not at 20. But you don't have to be prepped you should be prepped for a month or more, unless you're an idiot. What the hell? We're on a fucking rock that's traveling through space. Is there any guarantee that there's not going to be a solar flare or freaking EMP tomorrow, idiots? Right?
Yeah,
like, come on. Have some water and have some food, because what the hell? There's no guarantees of nothing. But I don't think it's all like, and I'm saying idiots to whoever the hell's listening to this for the first time, not actually 16 people are listening. But the idea that, let's say, a gas truck flips over, radioactive slurm knocks over and all over your streets and stuff, and they're like, get out of here, unless you want to stay. Like, but we're telling you to get out of here. Like, who's going to leave? Like, the people that ain't got nothing, right? They're like, the stores are all, you don't got to leave, but the stores are all closed. You can't drive, blah, blah, blah. It's horrible conditions. Weather's so bad. There's a flood. It rains so hard. There's too much snow. It's too hot. It's too cold. It's been too dry. It's been too wet. Elevation's too high. It's too low. It's global warming or global whatever, right? Like all these things. There's no food. There's no whatever. Get out of here. So what's people going to do? You got to get the hell out of there, right? You're going to get out of Dodge. So now you're, in traffic jams and, like you say, all the strife and horribleness. Or if you've got a month's worth of food, you can at least hang for a minute and only deal with the looters and criminals who stay behind and other people who are smart enough to not be in the first wave of idiots to try to get the hell out of Dodge. And then either be able to make a rational decision after, like which route is now open or, which is the smartest place to actually go to now that everyone's boogied. Or maybe turned out that I didn't have to boogie and all these idiots needed to because they ran out of food and they had no choice, but I had choice. Or, I can go that way, but it's going to take me 5 times as long. I better bring some food with me. Oh, I got some food. So having food is smart in so many ways. Not having food limits you in so many ways.
Well, I think water is the one that most people forget, right? Because, like, you'll prep and you'll have, 6 months of food for your family.
I live in super so they can turn off electric water. So in some places that's not the case. If you live next to a lake like I have,
well, you still got to have a way to purify it, right? Unless you just plan on drinking straight lake water or boiling it all the time, which takes a whole bunch of energy,
Well, again, I'm talking about me in Arizona, so that would be different if I was in Alaska, if I was in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, or if I was in wherever, someplace different.
I don't know, like we've got a hot tub in the backyard, right? And I've got a way to filter the hot tub water if we need to drink it.
If I was going to do anything,
better than nothing.
I would use it for the dog or like trading or washing. I mean, using it for washing, yes, filter it and use it for washing for damn sure, because that's the source of water. But put a poncho tarp into it so that it's separate from the gross thing that's there, and you don't need to have to bleach it or anything. Just separate it, put a tarp down or a membrane down, have a rubber membrane to put down over it, and then you collect rainwater into it. Now you've got pure water. You got snow to throw in there, you got pure water. So the gross stagnant pool of filth and chlorine, yeah, use that for washing. But yeah, you got a container that's outside that can hold however many gallons.
Yeah, I mean that's like the emergency backup, you know what I mean? Like there's I don't know how many gallons of water I have, but like
it's good
drinking water.
200. I'm trying to think like.
Oh, and that thing's like 5,000 gallons, dude. Like it's a lot.
No, 55-gallon drum is 55. Maybe 4 or 5 in there. 4 in there.
Okay, yeah, maybe that. So maybe like 250.
But yeah,
I don't know how many it is. It's a lot of water though. But yeah, I mean, like that's like the super backup. Like shit has gone down and things are not good. I guess we're drinking hot tub water.
Yeah, and I'm talking again. I'm just using it as an example. Like something happens where they're like, we recommend that everybody leaves. Like we highly suggest you get the hell out of here, or like you better get out of here. And first come, first serve to the buses, or first come, first serve to the whatever free help. And then if you're in the position where, dang, I need free help, like I don't have any water, I don't have any food, I have to go in line right now. Like all I'm saying is you're limiting yourself. That's all I was getting at. By having some water initially. Here's the thing: you go to buy, I'm talking about those 5-gallon water things that flip upside down onto a dispenser in an office or wherever. Those things cost like $5. like $6, right? They don't cost that much. If you have to buy the whole contraption with water in it, it might cost you under 10 still. But if you can probably, even if you looked around, you could probably buy those things that are designed for storage, like if they dip a drop of bleach or something into it for storing. But that's what I'm talking about. Like, you just go buy distilled water like that or clean water like that, and you're talking $20 gets you 2 of them. $40 gets you 4 of them. You put those in a garage that don't freeze or a closet inside. I think everybody should have at least a couple of those 5-gallon things per person, right? It gives you enough to refresh yourself and stay hydrated, and then a little bit to cook and clean. And then you've got containers, so if the worst happens, you have to start collecting rainwater or you filter and other stuff. You're not like the guy with 16 canteens. You got 2 of those things to fill up.
Is it against the law to collect rainwater in Arizona? Because it is in Colorado.
I don't know.
Like you can go online and buy these barrel things that hook up to your gutters, so your gutters basically drain into the barrels, and then you can collect water in the barrels, and during good times or whatever, you use that to water your lawn or your garden or whatever. And if the water ever got turned off, then you got a 55-gallon drum underneath every gutter in your house, right? And that's a really good way, I think. But if whoever I don't know, authority or code manager or whatever, or I don't know, the neighborhood police guy comes by and sees your backyard and sees that, then you get a ticket and you get fined and they take it away from you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if they've got some kind of issue and everybody's collecting the water and now there's not enough the city's backflow things to work or something, that would be the issue, I guess. But I guess that would take quite a few people putting up upside down buckets or empty buckets.
I just don't understand why. I mean, I guess that's why, but I
That's
don't know.
why
It just
you
seems
got to be well, there's only X amount of fresh water on the planet, and you own or you borrow, that section of property over there. So that doesn't give you the right to all the water up in the air.
I don't know. It just seems like if it falls from the sky onto my roof, I should be able to pick it up and take it or collect it or whatever. I don't know. Like that, the town of Chew and Swallow. You remember that book where the guy turns the clouds into hamburger makers, and hot dogs fall from the sky, and pancakes and eggs and stuff, and you just hold out a plate?
No.
You don't know that book? Oh, it's a great movie too. They made a little kids cartoon out of it. I forget what the name of the movie is.
That sounds like socialism. What you do is want and expect, and your needs are gratified. The community.
Yeah, but it ended up being bad because the storms got out of control and the burgers started crushing houses and stuff. I guess when everybody gets free stuff, it eventually always goes bad, right?
Well, no, there's no free. I mean, it all
Right.
comes from somewhere, so it depends on if you want to pay attention to wherever it comes from. Ape is saying, got 2 wells on my property, one in the basement, and one in the back room, still have crap in the house, got room water. That's it.
How much does it cost to dig a well? I wonder.
That's-
I guess it depends
that's what I
on.
was gonna say everybody's got different situations, like where your cable is, what the material is, your zoning and your legality on it. If you would even want your water, what if the water's gross? Put all that effort into bringing up water that's bad, because the city does, do stuff to the water, and you're picking up well water, you're doing all that stuff yourself.
I don't know. There's people who live up in the mountains in Colorado who have their own wells because they live far enough away from everything to where they don't have like city water lines running into their house. So they just pay for a well and dig it. That water is the most amazing tasting, crystal clear, just the best water you've ever had in your entire, like better than what you get in like a bottle of Dasani or whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had that kind of stuff. But that we were talking about fishing before. I've gone to places where glacier water or whatever, like rainwater. The lakes are just rainwater basically. So you get out in the middle of the lake, you just dip your cup in there and drink it, and it's like you're talking. It's literally a lake. And there's fish in it, I guess, and dirt. Aside from that, I guess birds probably poop in it. Aside from that kind of natural gross shit, there's nothing bad in it except for acid rain. Actually, even when I was drinking it, there was acid rain. I went to a thing when I worked for the government for a minute. I did a thing where we walked 20 miles up into wilderness. Wilderness means you can't drive any kind of machinery into it. That's one of the things Clinton did that I think was okay. Created a bunch more wilderness land. Anyway, so we got a whole bunch of land in the country where you can't go anywhere. You can't even, if you're going to build a trail on it, you can't even bring like a chainsaw. You can't drive a motorcycle. I think for an emergency, they would probably bring a helicopter to you, right? But for even general trail maintenance, you can't even bring up power tools, right? What are you doing? It's mute or something. So, I walked 20 miles. I went with this crew. They walked 20. I just went with them to help them carry shit. But they went 20 miles and paid by the government, 20 miles up into the mountains to go to some glacier lake, which is literally just the melted water at the bottom of the glaciers. To paddle out in the middle of it with a little rubber boat, drop glass little thingies down all different levels of this deep ass lake, and find out how much acid rain is in there. And because of fucking Salt Lake City picking it all up over the Rockies, from 20 miles up in the middle of nowhere, pristine, as virgin as we can get in this country, acid all in that water. Not undrinkable, but it's certainly there. And it was in every single thing coming down that hill. All that water goes down a river, into little ponds, into rivers, into Mississippi eventually. Acid from the get-go. From the rain that filled the lake. So we got pollution on it.
Yeah, man. These are big ass problems.
That stuff would end after everything's shut off, I guess. There would be less amount of shit and a bunch of houses kicking off. Smoke isn't the same as like factories or whatever that may. You know what it is from Salt Lake City? It's probably those giant mines. There's like some industry there with those giant mines. I bet you. Bunch of pollution.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're doing out there in Salt Lake.
They got a giant mine. They keep acting like it's the largest copper mine. It's a pretty damn big hole. But all I'm saying is there's nowhere. You can go pretty much everywhere at this point. We live on one ecosystem. So all that stuff about blah, 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 and this and that, it's still bullshit. We still smeared a bunch of gross shit. We've pulled a lot of stuff out of the ground. We constantly turn it into stuff that can't break down, and then we smash it into fine particles and we smear it all over the place. And then we wonder why we're sick and dying all the time. And we want to blame people for the consequences of just ignorance and a shit ton of people not understanding and realizing. So there's some stuff going on that sucks. Anyway, if the world went to shit, some of that stuff would stop, but it already exists. So like the giant plastic coral reefs or whatever that exist wouldn't disappear if the world turned off, right? All our plastic still exists. There'd be ocean liners that would crash because of the infrastructure shut down, and they would smear gross and horrible, you can't call it a natural disaster anymore, ecological disasters, that there'd be no infrastructure to clean up. We don't even know what it's like right now because we're able to clean up our horrible messes relatively quickly. It takes time, but the ocean will clean. But, one or two ocean liners full of oil could destroy what a bunch of people are sitting pretty. They think, I live on the coast. I'm going to fish for the rest of my life. The rest of the world's going to go to hell, and I'm going to have, what's just an ocean liner just took out the entire thing as far as I can see north and south? Uh-oh. Guess my plans are shot.
Yeah, dude, totally. Yeah, man, that's crazy. I wonder how long it would be, like if I forget the name of the book, but there's a book where every human is just like blinked out of existence, and then what happens to the Earth, right?
Well, there was
And they're like a couple of days later, the coal plants shut down. Like within
That's
a
not
couple, like couple of.
there was half of the humans, but the superheroes turned into being the other.
Yeah, no, that it wasn't that documentary. It was a different one. But yeah, they break down like how much pollution comes out of this thing and what happens to nuclear plants after this amount of time and how does that work, and like I don't know, it kind of went into it, and basically it was saying like within 10,000 years you would never even know that humans were on the planet. Basically, like the only things that would be left would be like the pyramids and a
How many
few
years did you say?
10,000.
No, 10, 1,000, like 100 years. Here, I gotta go with that. So keep running the show if you want. Otherwise, we'll shut it down. But I gotta go somewhere in 6 minutes. But I think it would take much less. I just went to picture. I'm about to picture. Wait, that doesn't work. Pincher off one here, but went to picture fucking Oklahoma, where 50% of the lead from World War I came from. What they say, right? It's a super fund, like what they call that, like super. What they call it natural disaster area. Not a natural disaster. It's a ecological disaster super fund area. Like it's totally gross and disgusting and stuff. So that place has been abandoned not that long, like I think since the 80s or something, and it is gone. Like it's gone. So think about some place you've driven past that's just an old, just what do you call it, like a neglected or abandoned building and stuff. And I mean, out here stuff kind of lasts for a while because there's no rain. But when there's rain and plants, I don't think it would take 1,000 years, dude. And we'd see maybe concrete pads left, not even. Because think of how crazy weeds come up through blacktop, and once you got a crack in concrete, how long it takes weeds to come up and just smash that concrete all up. All right, I'll be back.
Yeah. But I mean, there's certain structures and certain things that you'd be able to identify for years. I think what they were talking more about was like the ecological effects and how long it would take the Earth to absorb them and like return to some state of normalcy, and like how many species have we killed off, how many things to the ecology have we done negatively that then would have to recover. How long would it take for that to get to a new equilibrium? I don't know. But it was something like that. It's been a long time since I've read that book, and I'm not... Is that the one, Alex Wiseman, The World Without Us? I'm not sure if that's the same book or not. It could be. It's been a long time. Fun fact, the longest lasting proof of man will be the car tries to bury dirt or water. I don't know about that. I think it would be the fucking pyramids, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be, or, what's the one with the president's faces in it? Mount, damn it, I'm tired. I'm sorry. I can't think of the mountain with the president's faces on it. Someone help me. Somebody! Fine Ape, you're the only one talking. What's the name of that? Mount Rushmore. Damn it. I beat you. Yeah, Mount Rushmore will be there. And, like, aliens will come in, like, a million years and land on our planet, and there won't be any life here because we ruined it all, potentially. I don't know that. But Mount Rushmore will be there. Which is weird, because that was built by one person, wasn't it? It was just one guy who, well, I'm sure he didn't do all of it, but yeah, one guy basically said, I'm going to do this, and then he started working on it, and like eventually people were like, oh, that's cool, and helped him out or whatever, and his kids got involved. But it was his entire lifetime to build that, which is crazy. It's a lot smaller than you would think, too. Like, you look at pictures of it, you think it's like this giant thing, and then you get there, it's like, oh, well. Stupid America. I don't know. How long would the Statue of Liberty be there for? Like, if we just left it? Because they got to do maintenance on that stuff all the time, don't they? Like, there's always some little piece of it that's rotting away that they got to, like, fix up somehow or whatever, you know? Or, like, the Golden Gate Bridge.
You're talking about Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, I was talking about Mount Rushmore and, like, things that would be around in 10,000 years. Rushmore would definitely be there.
But Mount Rushmore is in the middle of the mass. It's been everything new. and Golden Gate Bridge would fall down.
Yeah, Golden Gate Bridge would be. It would rust away in a couple hundred years, I would think.
That's one of those things. I don't even think that, like they'll say, like, they start painting it, they get to the other side and they start painting it again. I don't even think they don't think they can do that. I think they start painting it and then they get about halfway and they start painting it again. And there's like constantly crews on that thing redoing the paint because, like you say, it's in salt water. It's about to. I mean, I've seen shows like there's constantly work on those things. They're not just sitting there.
Yeah, I mean, something like that's gonna real quick go away, and especially once it like starts to degrade, like it'll just accelerate the degradation.
Cars, weird and dirt. Oh, like rubber from car tires. Oh, well, or maybe diamonds. Obviously, if we're just talking like hardness of stuff, but all of that requires that there's like tectonic movement, or erosion, upheaval, or some other construction and impact. One of the reasons we might not have further stuff is because a big meteor hits or something. Obviously, that destroy things physically. Cold could come up and break things down. But on the other hand, we definitely take things and modify molecules into very strong molecules that cannot naturally come apart. That's what plastic is. So we are creating things that will be here for a very long time. They might break smaller, but they'll be here.
I was reading about this chemical that the United States Air Force was using as a fire retardant. It was like this foam stuff that they spray. And the foam, once it gets into the ground, it'll never go away. Like there's a chemical in it that does not break down, no matter how long it's in the ground. So it like seeps into the groundwater, and then people drink it. And like there's been all these like cases of cancer around this one base. I forget where it was, but like they're trying to like sue the United States Air Force because how many people have died from cancer, and like supposedly they knew that it caused cancer and they did it anyway, and they knew that it broke down and they used it anyway, and they knew that it wouldn't go away and they used it anyway, and so the people are upset about it, obviously.
Well, there's more than one chemical that can do that, has that characteristic. If you watch that show, Dark Water, that Angelina was talking about, the movie that's out now on movie theaters, called like Dark Water, I think, and it's about Teflon. So the Teflon was created to coat tanks in World War something, so the tanks didn't rust. And when they were like, "Hey, that worked pretty damn good," so they were like, "What can we make with that?" And they figured, "Oh, let's wipe it onto pots and pans and other stuff." And the problem is that it's one of those things, like you just said, with the dust and all that. So basically, the way this movie describes it, and who knows, it's obviously a biased movie, but more than likely it's just of it, right? Like certain chemicals, whenever they started to regulate chemicals, they said, we need help. We got to regulate chemicals. Tell us which ones are bad. And then something to that effect. They basically let the industry say, okay, here's the deal. Like these are common or these are dangerous or whatever. And at the time, with the knowledge that was available, everybody was trying to help each other out. And they said, here's what we know. Here's the deal. And then if I find out after the fact, then it's like, some of it is he said, she said, like, when did you know? When did you find out? How long did you keep doing it after? But some of it is like, oh shit, what now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you tell somebody that they knew about something, or they should have known about something before everybody else knew about it? And if they didn't, you know what I mean? Like, some of that stuff, I'm not going to just always immediately say somebody's at fault. Like, sometimes you just invent something and then figure out way later, like, that wasn't perfect. But anyway, Teflon, or the movie Dark Water, is about Teflon, and it's, I forget where now, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. Damn, I can't remember. It's Illinois, somewhere in the Midwest, and very similar to what you just said. But it's a whole movie, like big budget movie out right now.
Well, there's this stuff called atrazine, which is a byproduct of plastic, which leaches out into water which is a estrogen mimicker. It tricks your body into thinking that it's estrogen floating around in your body, and your body acts accordingly. Right? It's like it has like receptors for estrogen. When that receptor's filled, a certain thing happens in your brain, or a certain thing happens in whatever organ or whatever in your body, and then you have these effects from it, right? And like that's been going on for a long time, and that's why you can't have like the number 7 plastic, I think is what it is like the really really bad one that they were using up until like the mid 80s, or whatever it was, or even the mid 90s, I think is when it was, when they finally like decided not to use that anymore. But even the other plastics have a certain level of other different types of chemicals which they haven't fully analyzed yet, which may or may not have other effects on people that we don't even know about, And even though like we're using different kinds of plastics again, doesn't mean you get rid of all the atrazine either. It just means that it's not quite the high levels of it that you get with like the number 7 plastic. But yeah, dude, plastic's like one of those things that might end up killing us.
Well, you mean that one where they were making bottles out of it for a long time, BHP or some shit, and then they were like, "Oh wait, let's not make food bottles out of this anymore."
Right. I mean, like it was like a specific kind of plastic that they were storing liquids in that people would consume for long periods of time, and during those periods, especially if it was heated up, like if it was left in a warm car or in the sun or something, like the levels of atrazine leached out of the plastic would be like really really like dangerously high.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, you like give it to your kid, like, oh, here's some water. I don't know. I wonder how many of that stuff we absorbed before we knew about it. Because like we're at that age where a lot of the stuff when we were kids isn't around anymore because of that.
Yeah. So the same with parents, like literally in the Egyptians and shit. So think about like every age that we've had, right? Stone Age, the Bronze Age. In the Stone Age, somebody was smashing up asbestos and getting cancer. They didn't know how to diagnose it, so they call it a witchery or something. They sorted the guy. But you know what I'm saying? Like somebody was getting the effects of something as soon as we started manipulating stuff. I'll bet you the first time we were like, went through the animal age where we figured out we could poke critters out of their nest and roust them out and then eat them or whatever, eat their eggs maybe or something. And then we figured out like, oh crap, they're making their eggs or their nests out of like, weird hyena poop. And that has something that gives us cancer. And we thought that was witchcraft. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that as soon as we started dicking with shit on this planet, we started inhaling stuff and eating stuff and absorbing stuff and started eating stuff that had been already eating other stuff. We were over here dicking with this plant, which excretes something, and now our fish have this in it. We've been eating the fish, and we died of cancer, and they called it witchery. And then eventually they could go, hey, wait a minute, this isn't witchery. This is like cancer, or this is poisoning. And then later on, they're like, oh, this poisoning is from because they were eating the red crayons. And then somebody's like, hey, quit eating red crayons. I mean, like, some of this shit isn't, 2020 hindsight. You don't get to say I'm right. You just get to say, here's a hypothesis. Like, a lot of this shit is just the consequence of a bunch of stuff happening.
Did you know that there's asbestos in baby powder?
Yeah.
Like there's a certain level of it that they can't quite get rid of, so they just like say, okay, well, here's the maximum allowable amount of asbestos that you can have in the baby powder.
Well, baby powder is rock. And that's fresh rock. And asbestos is rock. It's just degraded whatever quartz at a couple of million years or before or after the other one, talc. So yeah, I mean, they grow that shit here in Arizona. Right? They mine it here in Arizona. There's tunnels that are like, oh, those are the old asbestos tunnels. You can't go down those unless you want to die. But guess what? You don't go in it and die. You go in it for 30 years and die sooner. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like asbestos is arsenic. It's just that we're aware of it and we leave it the fuck alone, like lead. You don't like lick lead and fall over dead. You work with lead and absorb it and sniff it and inhale it for years and get kind of crazy later, and maybe it's not Alzheimer's and it's not witchery. So we also get really concerned about stuff that, I don't know, I mean, we should. I'm not saying we shouldn't be aware, but you said like this all started with, my rant started with think of all the stuff we've been inhaling. Like I say, can you think about my grandpa was inhaling? Like the weird ass shit he was standing next to, and somebody was just mixing in a pot,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's looking up at like waist height, going, "What's this?" Or like I can remember standing in things where, like, I just done dumbass shit myself, like in the basement. Like, what happens when you mix this? Whoa! When you run out of the basement, like turn a fan on or whatever. Like, just people are stupid. And shit, how many times you go underneath like a front porch of someplace and you're like, you get out and you're like, oh, I probably shouldn't have gone under there. Like, that wasn't smart. What the hell was I breathing?
We invented the automatic washing machine before we invented a breathing filter apparatus for coal miners. You know what I mean? Like, as an example, like where our priorities are a little
The
fucked
wash
up
machine
sometimes.
is potentially one of the pieces of equipment that changed this planet. Changed the entire planet. It's bigger than refrigeration.
I'm not saying like we shouldn't have washing machines. I'm just saying like
I know. I just said like it just happens.
it's a funny thing to think about. That's all.
It's overlooked. People think of it as no big deal. Literally changed the evolution of mankind when you could take that chore and turn it into a robot.
Yeah.
At a level that almost everybody could afford relatively quick. And required electric. It literally changed so much stuff. It's neat. There's a couple of shows out there that talk about, things that changed the world or whatever. And I seen something about washing machines. Like, oh dang! I never realized like how big an impact freaking washing machines have been. It's what allows us to go from, whatever we consider third world anymore to more. Do you know where first, second, and third world comes from?
No. What does that come from?
It came from atomic bombs, like who had atomic bombs or something like that. I heard it in the movie the other day. Dang it, I can't remember. Where did? Holy shit!
Does that mean North Korea is a first world country then?
No. Let's see. Oh no, that's what it was. It was alien. It was aligned. It had nothing to do with income. It was aligned with either us, the Soviets, or nothing. So we're first world. Soviets were the second world, and then everything else was third world. So first worlds were the United States, United Kingdom, and their allies. The second world were the Soviet Union, China, and then third world was just everybody that wasn't us or commies. So I never realized that. I thought it was like we were better, second is in the middle, and third is at the bottom. But third just means anybody who ain't us or a commie. So it's just an old thing from 1952 from some French fucker.
Well, I mean, like, what was in the middle of Africa in 1952? Like in Zimbabwe.
They weren't communists, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, this was after World War II, and you were first world, you were free. Second world, you were communist. Third world, you were neither of the two. It had nothing to do with how much money you had or where you were physically. It was just if you aligned yourself with freedom or with communism. And then there was a bunch of countries that didn't align themselves with either. They were monarchies or whatever the fuck, dictators or whatever the fuck else they were that weren't the two. I always thought it was a level of industry or something, like, level of invention or agriculture. I don't know, not agriculture, but like, level of some kind of production or something.
What is this that Mathis is saying in the chat? I see the ATF went after the Reformation now.
That gun that has straight rifling instead of spiral rifling?
Oh, that one. Okay.
So that
because it's like technically not an SBR because it's not rifled.
But it's not anything. It was created to comply with the NFA as written, and it complied.
Technicality.
No, yeah. Compliance. They wrote a set of parameters and characteristics that apply to certain guns. So they created a gun that did not infringe in any of those, conflict with any of those rules. And then they said, can we make this gun? Because it's not any of these things you say it needs to be one of these things that's regulated. So that therefore, can we make it as a non-regulated gun? And ATF was like, sure, because that's what ATF is tasked with. They have to decide every time something's in the gray area. So later, I don't know why. I don't know if it said why. I think somebody was reading the whole thing basically earlier. It's probably Clover. He likes to read verbatim everything that's ever written. But somebody was reading it, and it was, maybe it was it you? Was it in Matt's chat earlier? No, it couldn't have been. You would have been asking about it. So anyways, I forget what instigated it, but basically ATF has changed their mind on that, sort of like with the braces, I think. And it was unclear to me. Because whoever was reading it wasn't reading it. So it's unclear to me if they've rescheduled it as or redefined it as something, or if they've created a new definition for it. But I think the result must have been an obnoxious jet because Blimtech was in there. I think the result was that it can only be sold to another FFL. It can't be, if anyone owns one, they can't sell it. And if any shops own it, they cannot sell it except to another shop. So if that's the case, then they've created a new thing that has some set of rules like that. I don't know of anything that has those rules.
I don't like how the ATF can just like decide, like with the whole not bump stock, the pistol brace thing, right? Like at first they're like, yeah, pistol braces are fine, you can totally use them, and then for a little while, remember they were like, well, you can have the pistol brace, but you cannot put it up to your shoulder because then you're using it as. And then for
take the dog out because he's looking at it. I mean, she only looks at it. She means it. So we can either go off air, or I can address that because my challenge is we don't want an ATF that requires no questions. That would be an ATF that's absolute, and I don't think that's a better ATF. The ATF we have today is the ATF that exists by law. They're not doing anything intentionally obtrusive or whatever the word would be. They're not doing anything to get us right now. They're doing what they're told to do the way they have to do it. And I'll come back from letting her out if you want again, but my position has always been we're better off with an ATF that's like the way it is today. The more efficient ATF is a jackboot. Gotta take her out. Yeah.
No, you're good. I don't know, man. I just the way that they go back and forth on things, and they're like, one minute they're like, oh yeah, it's totally fine if you have this thing, and then they're like, well, you can have it, but you can't use it like in this way. And then you saw a bunch of people on YouTube like modeling that, like, oh well, I'm shooting my pistol AR, and I'm gonna hold it in this like weird way out in front of me and not let it come anywhere close to my shoulder because that's what the ATF says now. And then they're like, oh well, we changed our mind again. You can totally put it on your shoulder. It's fine. And so then everyone's like, okay, cool. And now it's like, I don't even see why, like, for the most part, what the point of getting an SBR is anymore. Because you can just get a pistol and put a pistol brace on it, and, it's basically the same thing. And I know that's, like, unpopular to say, because, like, it's, like, calling out a truth, but really that is what it is. And I think it's only a matter of time, given this precedent, this history, this power that they have, this, like, ability to go forth with marching orders from those above, to go after these things again. And it'll be another point in the future where we're going to be talking about pistol braces again in a different light, and that's coming up. So that's what I think about it, but I guess I am kind of interested to see what G-Webs thinks on that particular subject. I don't know. What do you guys think? Are they going to get rid of the pistol braces eventually, sooner or later? As soon as one's used in a mass shooting that fits the narrative? Sorry, mass murder. My bad. Gunsmith Cat's manga. It's got some effed up shit. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm fine, Ape. What are you reading over there? You reading some manga stuff? Getting all Japanese up in here? Mac posted the letter because FFLs kept asking, "Is this legal?" Well, I don't know, like, and that's kind of the thing, like, what G Webs is saying, like the ATF doing, like they're just being asked to fulfill a role of deciding whether a thing fits a thing or not, and they're trying their best to faithfully do that to the letter of the law, right? And companies keep finding ways to do things that are to the letter of the law, technically, so they have to say yes, and then the government says, nope, we don't like that, do something about it, ATF. And that's the part I don't like. Like, if you don't like the thing, and it's following the letter of the law, then you need to go through the process of changing the law, not go after the organization that's tasked with enforcing the law to reinterpret it in a way that you like, you know? That's what I see as the problem. What is the ATF? I just do whatever because Woods. Well, I guess that's why you're Gun Liberty Garrett. Yeah, and I agree with you, Mathis. It's only a matter of time, man. Like, sooner or later, and then what? Like, we're all gonna have to, like, SBR our AR pistol or AK pistol or whatever kind of rifle pistol thing that we've got to make it comply, or it's gonna be like we can't sell it like the
Where's your
whatever that
justification
gun's
for
called.
that assumption? Where's the justification? Where's the real data for that assumption? Is it based on the fact that we have braces? Or is it based on the fact that they said no to braces, that you just have to make it an SBR? I think the fact that braces exist shows us that there's not only a possibility, but an eventuality that the NFA will be removed.
Well, how did they get rid of bump stocks? Did they write a law for that, or did they just go to the ATF?
So in 1934, they said ban all guns. Why they say that? In 1934, at the federal level.
Because
What
of the
happened in
gangsters.
1934? Yeah, pretty much. Why? What is the gangsters a result of? Organized crime is the
Prohibition.
Yeah, prohibition. So they created prohibition at the national level, and then they created crime at another international level, and then they said, "Oh, I know how to solve this at a national level. Let's ban all guns. Guns are scary. No one's here to defend them. Let's ban them." Right? The NRA was like, "Wow, let's ban all guns." Right? They were like, "Ban all guns. Let's get rid of them all." Right? Right? No, of course not. So the NRA was like, hold on, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, where'd this come from? Why are you even doing this? Like, why is there this wave of federal legislation on shit? So, yeah, so let's start looking at the actual NFA and not just complaining about 2020, because that's ignorant, right? It's just literally either one, being ignorant, two, playing into their game, or three, both, right? So looking at the actual NFA, it was written in 1934. They wanted to ban all guns. So they said, here, we're going to ban all guns. Oh, there's a Second Amendment? Shit, we'll make all guns cost $200, the equivalent of $2,200 in 1934. How many people had $2,200 in 1934? Zero. They basically banned all guns. So then somebody said, fuck no. You know, somebody was the NRA. And they go, no, you can't just ban all guns. You got to give us all these guns. You know, that wasn't a compromise. That was like us getting, no, you can't just take all guns. So the compromise was give us something because you're about to take them all. And anyway, that was in 1934. So 1934, 1936, we get the FFA, they create FFLs. So they go from 0 to 2 years later, there's FFLs and an NFA. Then you got 30 years later, not even a generation later, and you got the 1968. And we're all born, and we all lived with the 1968 on. For 170 years, this country didn't have shit. But we also didn't have telephones and cars and airplanes and all that other shit. So the world was happening, right? So they build this shit in 1934. 30 years later, 1968, they amend it and create the stupid 4473s and the procedures and blah, blah, blah. And that's where you get into the definitions and shit. So when you start looking at it, it's not like somebody flipped a switch and there's this black and white law that's being screwed with. It's the accumulation of a decades worth of bullshit and patched together weird quilt work of shit. And it's gray and it's poorly worded and it's written by people who don't know what they're talking about, trying to ban something that they don't know what it is wrongly, right? So you get a situation by the time we're talking more recently or in modern days, where we've got this patchwork that's been amended, and now you're talking 34, 36, 68, 86, 90s, all amend this stuff, and now you're in 2020, and you've had the assault weapons ban where they literally accomplished banning all characteristics of firearms for a decade. You get what do you call that thing? The CDC that's accused red-handed or found red-handed of using taxpayer money to fund biased research to make guns look like they're a bad thing.
Yeah.
And they get their hands slapped.
Which is why Obama kept wanting to make that legal to do again. Like, we got to let the CDC do their research. Yeah, okay.
Allow them to be uncensored research, right? You get the end of the assault weapons ban. You get the proliferation of the AR-15 at a time when there's the internet bubble has happened. High-speed internet sharing of information. People are communicating in a whole different way. You got 3D printers. You've got again, the ability to send files. It's not like you have to send a thumb drive or anything. You can send stuff across the internet internationally. You've got the Undetectable Firearms Act in there and everything. So all I'm getting at is you've got tons of attention, new things that never even existed when all this stuff was written up. You've got this bullshit law. You've got states challenging it. Didn't even talk about that. You got states challenging it, adding all kinds of complications, at least 9 or 11 of them to do that bullshit. So all I'm saying is there's a whole bunch of circumstances to this thing, and now we're going to accuse the ATF of whatever, something negative here in 2020. What's the alternative? The alternative one, we know that it wasn't a perfect system. It's just this accumulation of garbage that's difficult at best. If you're concentrating 100% of the time, I wake up every fucking morning with this kind of shit on my mind, trying to figure out how to make it easier and more consumable for somebody to understand it all. And I can't be the only one. There's got to be hundreds of people, if not thousands of people over the years that have tried to figure it all out, get it across to people. It's just a shit ton of information, and it's all complicated. And that's just the general description of what we're talking about. Then you get into the actual use. Think of how many FFLs are out there. Think of how many registered firearms are out there. Think of how many ATF agents and how many years and months and stuff have gone by that all this stuff has got, what's the word, like precedence or tradition, or there's stuff that's happening that because it goes unchecked, it becomes part of the thing. So there's just so much to this. To complain that it's the ATF, the reason I explain all this is because it doesn't do us a service. We don't do anything to accomplish any progress by blowing it off as the ATF is the problem. The ATF is the cog in the wheel. The problem is it's a law that shouldn't exist. That's the real problem. The real problem is that they've successfully adjusted society to assume that the law is correct and that it should not exist, and it's there for a reason. They've adjusted society to reinforce this incorrect lie, or this incorrect assumption, this lie, that the law protects anyone. All it does is prevent us from owning different types of property that are interesting, and it keeps us from involving ourselves with a whole area of firearms that would make it more interesting and just more fun and more useful and efficient and everything. So there's so much more to it than just saying it's the ATF's whim.
I don't know. My point, and I made it when you walked away, was that like what happened with the bump stock ban, right? Was that a law that they passed, or was that an edict passed down by the ATF because their bosses told them to? And it was the ATF, if I'm not incorrect, right? Like,
the bosses didn't tell them to. There's no edict. You're creating a 2020 hindsight narrative that's not correct, that has no basis of anything.
Well, I'm asking. I'm not telling you how it is.
Well, I'm just trying to describe. What am I going to say? No, because that's just like being contrary. What I'm trying to explain is that you're raging against the system, the people, when you should be raging against the concept that we even have the law / the system. So complaining about the process is just a waste of time. It's like a kid complaining that they don't get enough on Christmas, that Christmas isn't every day. the alternative. So we know where it comes from, that it's a big mess. It's, in other words, it's not as though there's just this black and white law and they're fiddling with it at their whim. That's what I'm trying to explain. That whole thing was to explain that this isn't just a rogue ATF agent, or what's the word for like the, you know, the different presidents or different like terms or whatever. Like, it's not just a time that the ATF is being a jerk. It's not just an individual. It's not like a political party's influence. It's just the process, and it's been like this forever. How many bump stocks have we had? Zero, like absolutely zero. Since 1934 till now, that was the only one. So if again, like I've said this another way a million times before, if there's been like 100 bump stocks and they acted like consistently, and this one they acted inconsistently, rage against them for acting inconsistently. When there's been no precedence and they've acted once, rage against the system that creates the situation, not the individuals who follow through on whatever the procedure is all I'm getting at. Is that a more clear way of saying it? When we read into the ATF, we're wasting breath. If you've got an hour to talk to somebody and you spend 45 minutes reinforcing the idea that the ATF is a bunch of jerks and that they willy-wally around, you've wasted everyone's effort. You've wasted everyone's time. Number one, that's been said a billion other times already. So all you've done is perpetuate, regurgitate the same incorrect info, and you've created a urgency or like a need to be against somebody who's just literally doing a job. That's like going in and saying, I don't like zoos, so I'm against you for taking my ticket at the zoo. Like, you can be mad at that guy. He's involved in the zoo industry. He's probably not wrestling up elephants and putting them in that thing. He's making $7 an hour. So that's the equivalent. You're getting mad at the guy making $7 an hour, and you should be mad at the concept of everyone wanting to watch an elephant sit there and suffer for $7.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying.
So if we really want to change what we can do, if we want to take our platforms and our voices, right now 12 people are listening, I could go, yeah, or I could go try to figure out how to sucker y'all into buying yellow shoes instead of blue shoes. That doesn't interest me, but that's a thing I could do to make money, right? Instead, I'd rather continue to have the same conversation, because if we're going to spend our time talking to a bunch of people online, and then those people have the potential of talking to other people and having other conversations, and we can add something to those conversations so that things evolve and they move along, then we're not just reinforcing the same old paradigms. We're not becoming the fucking sheep, the fucking cattle that they, whoever the hell your they is, need. They need cattle to sit around and not think. They just need cattle to churn on politics, and they need cattle to continue to chew their cud. They need them to deal with the news of the day that they have no power over and be frustrated and consider themselves nothing. But instead, you can look at how effective and how useful conversations have been, how individual conversations and things have moved the bar. And if we start keeping that pressure on, that we don't have to just look at what's going on, we can change what's going on based on our conversations and our efforts online like this. Then what do? We change the fucking future, dude. Like, what are we fucking sitting here talking about how bad the ETF is about bump stocks when we're talking about, not bump stocks, braces, because there's obviously a different story with bump stocks, but with braces, when we're talking about braces, for crying out loud, you know what it was like in 2005? You wanted to have a short-barreled rifle, and then what it was like in 2015,
didn't even get one,
and you wanted a short-barreled rifle, you didn't need to get one. How do we change? How do we justify our opinion of the NFA? How do we know the NFA is pointless? How do we show that to other people? We have to do that through precedent or through changing their minds, right? Or something else. Maybe I'm missing something. But precedent is a good one because it's often used for lots of things. So once we've got suppressors, which are basically everywhere, we have short rifles, which are basically everywhere before brace. Let's not forget that SBRs were a thing ever since the assault weapons ban ended. It's just that braces turned it into maximum overdrive with production levels and places like PSA being able to kick them out, like actually produce them. You know, braces have turned, 223 rifle into pistols, basically. Like, that's the preference. Like, how more people probably own pistols than they own rifles anymore if they are. And that changes society right there. It's not like an intentional one, unfortunately, but it's changing. So if we're going to get mad about the piece of that change, that is the ATF going back and forth on it, just get mad at the NFA. Don't get mad at the ATF. And let's talk about getting rid of the NFA. So we get rid of the precedent that how many pistol braces are out there? How many AR pistols are out there? How many 9mm rifle-y looking, big pistols are out there with braces on them? Whatever that number is, it means that your fear of them doesn't exist. Like, your fear of them is irrational. Like, the fact that these exist, there's a number of them, and they do no harm, your fear is irrational. The NFA is a reaction to your fear. Your fear is irrational, the NFA is irrational. Remove the NFA. The suppressors are a safety device. They're legal in hunting in every single state. There are a couple of states that say as long as you don't take them out of the state lines, across state lines, they're legal to just create and own. They're safety devices, OSHA approved. They should be a requirement on guns, not these guns that are being shot around other people, not a prohibited thing. There should be no more NFA. Like, these are things that we need. So I said before, like, I'd rather see what we've got now and use all of these pieces to justify the removal of the NFA, because every time the ATF has to do some of this bullshit and waste time and money, we can rack that up to they wasted time and money for no reason. Your law is not necessary. Let's remove it. Not just let's remove it because we want to have fun. Let's remove it because it's wasting our time and money. And it's our time and money via the ATF's time and money. So I don't like the ATF. I don't like the bureaucracy, but I'm not going to rage against the individuals when it's the system that we should be rallying together, and we can reinforce, we can encourage just being mad at the easy ATF, the unthinking surface, or we can actually look at the cause of the whole problem and spend that effort rallying not just easy sympathy for the surface issue, but the actual roots of it, and actually try to accomplish something. Because I can see us accomplishing something over my awareness of this stuff. We've accomplished lots of things. We just haven't done those intentionally every time. But things like safety, we've done intentionally. Things like making sure that you're clear when you're doing the video or something, except for a few people, I think it's a big thing to not be safe. Most people just reinforce that concept of making sure a gun is clear as they explain something to others who they don't know on the other side of the camera. And that's something that was intentional, that everyone took it upon themselves to be that level of responsible when their camera was pointed at them. Like, they're going to ambassador the gun community, like that. And that's something that we all did intentionally. We just didn't all sit down and agree to it ahead of time, which was a common sense thing that we all did, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a lot of speaking, but that's
what do you think about this whole thing with no more handling firearms on live streams? Because that's something that's certainly going to affect our crowd.
Yeah, good. I'm on the Duck, and I'd be on Chamber if I could. I don't even want to tell you how many emails I have to the other platforms that have not yet gone to live. But are we going to change the world by learning how to do YouTube the best? Or are we going to change the world by realizing we're on the internet and YouTube is one of the things we use online? We need to move past it. So, I'm not looking for something to cut a jugular, but at some point, if something's got to give, we already lost Hangouts, right?
Yeah.
And we survived. I think we are stronger. I know we are stronger in here. I think the community is stronger. I know individuals that I know in the community are much stronger than any, basically, whatever you call, like the crutch or the safety wheels that YouTube gives us. And it's better for our viewers. If we want to treat our viewers as nothing, as commodity, as a characteristic, as an aspect of our channel, as just another parameter, then that's the YouTube model. That's the bigger is better, more equals money. We have to do quantity in order to get enough views, to get enough trickle to pay for it all. And that means turn it vanilla, turn it to the disliked by the most, tolerated by the most. It turns into baseline, whatever you can do to make a buck, and then rinse and repeat. And it turns into drivel. It's garbage. And I don't care if it's for sports or if it's for comedy or if it's for, Christmas movies, do all that. I don't care. If it's for science or if it's for driving or if it's for guitars, go for that. I don't care. Compete with each other. Who cares? But for something like this, where we're actually trying to remove the NFA, gun owners can be entertained like a million different ways. But when it comes to advocacy and learning gun stuff, we need to strengthen ourselves as well as our audience. I don't consider my audience, the 14 people watching this, as any fucking part of a commodity. There's no business model that addresses 14 people unless I was constantly begging you each for like $100 a month, right? Like, that is not a model for a business, but that is awareness that we're all in a conversation together and that there's consequence of that. The consequence of a bunch of individuals talking is evolution of a discussion, an evolution of the conversation, the growth of each of us. Right now it's one-sided because nobody's fucking in here, and barely a couple of people are chatting in the text chat. But historically, over the span of 9 years that we've been doing these, there have been some epic conversations where 10 people in the YouTube chat walk away with more than they came to the group, the conversation with. And I've seen over the years, people, channels, projects, the community evolve, not just from ours. I'm not fucking saying it's just ours, but from the concept that we're able to do this, we're a stronger, better, more resilient community. And it's going to have to get a lot more resilient because we still got people that are willing to cry and bitch and moan like a fucking baby every time they get their foot stomped on, or, like a little issue, or they get diverted, or we get a loss, or we get a black eye. But again, I wouldn't be doing this if it was constantly going that way. It goes the other way. Like, I'm bitching, but I'm only bitching about the edges now. When I first started bitching like this, it was a lot more dire. It's changed. And I'm not saying it's like an easy win and it's all inevitable. It's certainly a struggle, but I think that we're not treading water here. We're swimming in a direction. And if nothing else, Garrett, even if the 15 don't get the word to 50, Honda and I are honing our conversations. So next time we have a conversation, let's be a little more efficient. Anybody who's listening, hopefully a little bit of that cleans off. So yeah, even if every single conversation doesn't spawn off a big root system of results, we all get stronger, we all get a little sharper. And if nothing else, it just keeps a couple of stats going, another gun channel on, another bunch of people watching gun stuff for 3 hours on a new.
Yeah, the pants is saying that they someone introduced a bill to get rid of SBRs from the NFA. It's HR 5289. I don't know about that. I haven't heard about that.
And we were talking about it in Clover's chat maybe earlier. And if everyone, let's say, went to SHOT Show, let's say that the 2A rally was a big deal, and then like when I started this, there was no CCW. Now every state has a CCW. No, when I started doing this was 2004. And there was at least Florida and a couple other states had CCW.
Dude, I remember when Florida first passed that, the news was like, oh my god, there's going to be mass shootings on the streets and yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. And then, they passed it, and it was crickets, man. Nothing happened.
Well,
everything was fine.
Perfect example of why I'm still enthusiastic and looking forward to the future. So something like what you just talked about there. Nobody either was around, remembers, or gets reminded of the situation back then. Because I was unique and it was a unique situation. It had not happened at that federal level before. And not everyone was paying attention to it, right? So now on YouTube, if everybody does the same old bullshit, like try to get views and try to monetize your views and try to find a sponsor that likes your style and try to entertain so that people come back and try to be consistent, all the bullshit recipe or whatever. What you don't end up getting probably is like somebody that goes back and focuses on stuff like that. But when you've got an audience, a bunch of people that are interested in this stuff, and together a shit ton of people throw a couple of bucks at the people that are doing stuff, or somehow it gets distributed. I'm not saying that Patreon or the crowdfunding things or Contribute Us or whatever it is on Gunstreamer, none of these are the end all be all, but they're all steps, they're all tools we can use. So as people, as the audience, the people that appreciate the results of all this stuff start to use those platforms. And now somebody who wants to, how awesome would it be if somebody went back and collected all the newspaper articles from all the major cities, from the big issues that created gun control. So everything that happened pre-68, Kennedy and the other assassinations, Martin Luther King. You've got whatever happened, the bullshit with the stuff we talked about a minute ago with the 34. Something happened in 36 that made them do FFLs, right? So there had to be some input for that. But to go back and focus on some of these things, the different riots that have happened, like 1921, and that's the kind of stuff that no massive audience is going to appreciate enough to sponsor, right? There's no gun company that's going to probably put money behind that unless they've got some like personal relationship person or some history or something, right? But 7 or 8, maybe 100 people that think that's interesting and drop $5 a month, so now that person can literally not work overtime because they got $500 a month coming in, or better yet, $5,000 a month, and that person takes a couple of months off, or turns into a reporter, a book writer, or a blogger or something. I mean, like, that's the kind of potential future we've got. Once there's, any amount of time, a couple of months, a couple of years, a couple of seasons, a couple of episodes of people having those kind of resources, well, how does that change the playing field? I know the things that I'm chomping at the bit to do are to create more resource so that people can understand where we are today. As people like me are able to do that, and then people like anybody else who's interested in that can consume it, and then the people who are like us 5 years from now, 5 minutes from now, 5 hours from now, or 5 years from now can take that stuff that's created now and go to the next level with an audience that understands that it only takes a couple of people throwing a couple of bucks at a few people, and you create content that could never be created by sponsorships, that could never be created by affiliate links, that could never be created by t-shirt sales, right? That an audience that needs to be persuaded would never pay for it, but an audience that's eager for it, as long as you can find the 200 people on the planet Earth that care about something, it can be funded nowadays. We've got that potential future, so I'm pretty optimistic. And the ATF, they got nothing to stand on. The humans that took that job are, honestly, whatever. I don't know why the hell you would want to be an ATF agent. Unless you talk to me and your goal is to like disable or whatever, dismantle the ATF from within. I mean, we can probably all agree like ATF is probably a dick job, but I know people that have been in government and have been told that a lot of time ATF agents got into it because they wanted to do tobacco, or they wanted to do something about alcohol or something about taxes or something. And next thing you know, they're in the firearms branch because of a promotion, or somebody got sick, or they got moved because they fart too much. It's government. They don't get to do what they want all the time. So there's people in jobs in government that didn't ask to be there. Unfortunately, there's also people that wanted to be there, and they're all sucking off of us. So you want anybody who wants to live off of the rest of us, I think that's a little weird in the first place. But okay, fine. They got somebody to do the job. I still think it's a distraction and a waste of effort, and I don't know if it's a distraction is the right word, but it's a waste of resources or a diversion of resources to effort on just being frustrated at where the metal hits the road, or whatever the word is. Like, I'd be more worried about why somebody's smashing that drill into the dirt. Like, let's not worry about the fact that the drill bit is hitting dirt. That's inevitable when you've got somebody smashing the drill into there. Let's stop the person from smashing the drill and not just be focused on the drill tip. I'm using a weird analogy there. Whatever came to mind.
Got me reading the conditions for employment for the ATF. I could apply right now.
There you go.
I
Right,
meet
well-
I meet all the requirements.
You have to have a degree.
No, there's no degree required.
Oh, usually federal jobs once you have some kind of degree, even ATF, or I mean, even border patrol.
No, you just have to be a citizen, possess a valid automobile license, complete an ATF questionnaire. You got to do an exam, go through an assessment test, go through a physical, appear for a field panel, be in compliance with drug policy, take and pass a medical exam, be in weight, take a drug test, successfully complete a polygraph. Wow, dude, there's a lot. Successfully complete a background check to get a top secret clearance. And you must be at least 21 and no older than 36 at the time. Oh shit, I guess I'm too old. Damn it. Missed it by 2 years. Oh well.
So why don't they want anybody older than 36?
I don't know.
Too much
At the time of,
experience?
like, you can be older than 36 and work there. You just can't be older than 36 and start working there.
Yeah, exactly. Because they can mold you. Like if you're too wise and you're not being molded to their rules.
I don't know,
It'll
man.
be hard to.
Maybe because at 36 you can be the president.
It's probably something like some kind of backwards thing, like you're not worth putting money into because you're going to retire sooner than you get. You know, like there's some curve probably of where you're useful and where they spend money on you or something.
Or like the army, where like they expect you to be able to perform physical tasks, and if you're like, you know, beyond a certain age, you might not be as good at those things as like a young man would, you know. I
Yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly. Like you're going to cost more in health than you are. So they're saying that they don't think he'd be a very good man on the inside.
Better than some people.
He would just immediately turn corrupt. You would know all this stuff. You'd be like, I thought so. All right, I'm in. You
I
would
just go around and hit you guys all up for money because I know everything about it, about what you guys are up to.
You wouldn't be
Bring
worried
the
about
power
it.
of the government down.
You'd have all the real players. Are you going to get $15 off of us? Here's $40. Can I borrow 35 of it back?
Well, $5
When you
at
can
a
go
time, I don't
after,
know.
you can go after. Oh, see, he's afraid to go after the real conspiracy theories. He's afraid to go after the real criminals. He's not even on the ATF.
Yeah, we could. That's definitely one that we should cover. I mean, with the whole Fast and Furious thing, like, I'm not saying like they're the worst thing that's ever come along, but they've definitely got their hands dirty once or twice, you know.
Also, I know Mike Detty, who was Operation Wide Receiver, which was the beginning of it all. And then once that was in Tucson, and one kid came up and tried to buy a bunch of AR receivers off of him at a gun show. So he went over, you know, the guys that do stuff, shows and stuff, know the ATF agents that are there, especially the ones that are there all the time. Like there's some agents that'll, we call it Mike or an agent or something, that'll come in and be kind of wandering around. Nobody knows who they are. But there's always ones that are just like the Tucson agents or whatever that are there at every show, and the guys that work there every show know who they are probably. So anyway, he knew who it was, and he maybe it was one of his actual agents or something. I don't know. So anyway, he finds out what should I do, and they said, I forget what the procedure was. It's been a while since I read it or talked to him about it. But whatever the thing came back to him, let him take them, and then it turned into treating Mike, who was just a guy selling guns at the gun show. They turned him into basically the equivalent of the word for a snitch, the real word.
Rat?
No, there's a real word for a person who's offering information, a witness.
Informant?
An informant, yeah. And but he was not like, you know, typically here's the thing, and it happened to him, and he'll explain this if you can do an interview with him sometime if you want. He's very, you know, he has a book that he can sell, so he can do an interview to help talk about it or learn about it. But basically, most confidential informant, CI, most confidential informants are, somehow crooked or involved or somehow criminals, basically getting away with it by ratting out their friends, right, who are also criminals. So typically, I'm sure informants aren't treated all that well. We always see them in TV getting stuck in the trunk and shit, right? So I guess Mike was just a regular guy. He wasn't a criminal. He went up to them and said, "Hey, what do you think's going on here? What do you want me to do about it?" And then it became a thing. It kind of evolved into a thing, and they were treating him. They didn't know how to treat him, and they didn't treat him well because they are only used to treating people as informants poorly. So they, like, in court, they would say his name, and he's a confidential informant, like working with the government on shit that cartels are involved in and stuff. You're just sitting there trying to do your, whatever you think is the right thing for the country, and then law enforcement that's supposed to be representing it, and they return the favor by telling your name in court to the people who are vindictive as hell and violent as freaking all get out. I mean, like, that's some crazy stuff. So with all that going on, it's all done, and you talked to Mike for a little while about this whole thing, his involvement. Like, say, it was from this Tucson angle, and it went on for quite a while. People were meeting at his house. He had, like, literally a wire on, like a tape recorder strapped to his leg kind of thing, it was crazy. And it was all inexpensive, kind of fly by night, not like sophisticated like you'd see in the movies or whatever. It was weird because he was treated not as a criminal, but not as a good guy, because they didn't really have a way of treating people like good guys. And like I say, inconsequently, or whatever the word would be, like, kind of got run over a bunch of times because of that role that he was in was typically a criminal's role. So they typically just get the shit, end of a stick. So it was an interesting, if not frustrating as hell, story to listen to. At some point, the ATF guys from Phoenix hear about it and start a whole nother one in Phoenix called Operation Fast and Furious. And they allege that, like, GPS things get stuck into stocks, but we all know how big a stock is and how big a GPS receiver. The government doesn't really have James Bond shit. So that never actually happened. It was just theorized. So they basically were letting guns go down. They'd lose track of them before they even hit the border sometimes, or right after. And then eventually one of our own Border Patrol agents gets shot by one of the guns coming back across to this side. And that doesn't sound like that big a deal to most people, I don't think. Like, the consequence of that isn't as significant. Cartels don't do shit on this side of the border. How many times have you heard of a cartel person doing anything on this side of the border, period, let alone to a Border Patrol agent? So the fact that those things were so prolific that they got to be used on this side of the border, and that a Border Patrol agent was shot with one, is pretty crazy. It's like, it's basically saturated. Like, to have that many of them, a lightning strike to happen, in the specific kind of dirt, it's probably a fairly common dirt, right? Like, if the lightning strike happens there, it's probably something that's not unique. It didn't happen on the head of a pin. It didn't happen in the only gold nugget in the field. Right? It happened probably just in some dirt. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, the only gun that went down to Mexico wasn't the only one brought back over here. And anyway, so the worst part I was getting to is Mike will tell you all this interesting stuff about what happened. And then you get to the end, and I asked him, so why do you think this all went down? Like, was it, me? I'm not like the first to assume that it's a massive, like, I just know the government. There is no way to create a massive, giant conspiracy. There's just not a way to make it work. So what do you think did all this? And he says, to summarize it or whatever, that it was like, the goal was to get a bunch of guns down there so that they could then look at the guns down there and say, all these guns come from the United States, we got to get rid of guns here. And I mean, again, that's his opinion, but he's got an opinion from someone who is literally involved for a long time, intimately, with the whole thing, and knows the people, the actual players and stuff. So,
well, I mean, and one thing that I'll disagree with you, or I don't know how adamantly you feel about this part of it, but, like, part of what you said is that there's nothing going on with the cartels over here. And that's not entirely true. I wouldn't say that there's nothing. There's definitely some things that the cartels have been doing. Like, you remember that news story about the tamales in LA. Like there were these people giving away free tamales in LA, and it was basically they were getting rid of bodies by making them into tamales, like victims that they killed, and it was the cartels in on this side of the border who were doing this. They were killing their like rivals or like informant person or whatever guys going against the cartel or whatever it is. Like, how do you get rid of it? I know. Let's give away some tamales. Like, Jesus Christ. And that's just an example. I mean,
I'm not saying that cartels include. No, I'm just saying that compared. I should have said
compared. Yeah, comparatively, you're right.
Like,
yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to make that distinction.
Just be compared to brandish. They can do whatever they want over there, and it's just horrible. Over here, they'll occasionally do something, but it's. I mean, that's an extreme. Obviously, it's not like that's a common thing. It's just that they're not killing people on this side. They know enough that creates international controversy. They just don't do it. They kill each other, I guess, in the middle of nowhere, and nobody knows about it, and they do whatever they do about it. But I'm just saying, most of that firefights and all that kind of garbage happens on the other side of the border, from what I understand. And they definitely don't go around shooting border patrol, which means it's most of the time when they're armed on this side of the country, or on this side of the border, in our country, it's to protect their drugs from other fuckers like themselves or people like us just stumbling up across them or whatever.
Right.
I mean, the mine's going to walk a bunch of dudes with AKs that look like drug mules with a bunch of drugs on their back. Nobody's just going to walk up and ask them for water. You know what I mean? Like that. By walking that way, they sure that everyone's going to leave them alone. And well, they just do it. I don't know. I mean, that's all another story. They're definitely doing it, and the Border Patrol's trying to stop them, but there's more of them than there is potential for Border Patrol to do anything.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't trust that agency, and I don't trust the bills that they've passed to increase the power of that agency. I don't trust the people in power who want to make more laws to take these, legally owned items away from us. Like, I don't know. Like, we got to fight against it. We got to find effective ways to talk about it and spread good information about what we're talking about. And yeah, you're right. Like, conversations like this help hone us to do that, even if there is only 17 people watching.
Well, like I said, it's not about the people. It's about the quality of the character of the people and the conversations that we have. So I'm sure a couple of them are falling asleep in front of the computer, but 11 of them give us a thumbs up. A bunch of people come back on the regular. Like I say, a bunch of people will watch this tomorrow. Give us some feedback. We'll end this one now. It's been 3 hours, so appreciate you and who else was in here today? A couple of people were in here, right?
Nah, someone tried to hop in, but they weren't able to. I forget who it was. Their microphone was working.
Was there somebody else in here? Maybe I was just in other chats. Yeah, okay. Anyway, thanks for jumping in. Yeah, so it would have been a short one. It turned out to be a long one, so everybody gets a bonus long chat. And we'll be back tomorrow. It's Free Patch Friday, so we'll be doing some stuff over on the store, and we'll be adding some stuff tonight, I hope. And then at the weekend, we've been doing a 2-day workshop on Saturday. You got a Sunday show coming?
Yep. Gosh, man, I don't know what I'm covering yet, though. I got a couple ideas bouncing around the old noggin, but I gotta pick one and get to work on it.
Conspiracies.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Do a
Make
what's the Santa Claus backwards? Krampus. We could do a Krampus chat.
what is that? Where Santa Claus comes from, or Krampus comes from?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, Santa Claus. Spell it backwards.
Krampus, right? It's C-U. It's S-U-P. It'd be so. Am I spelling it wrong?
I don't know. I thought that's what it was. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just something someone told me and I believed him without thinking about it. Anyway.
Did you see Star Wars already?
No, man. I was thinking about going after work tonight when I got off, but I was tired. I just wanted to go home.
Pretty seen it twice already. So
Oh, did you watch it on the home theater?
I watched it on my personal.
How's the quality on that?
Very good. Very good.
No, like the quality of the video is what I'm saying.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
Okay,
They-
okay.
It's not a DVD thing or nothing, but it's
Right. But I mean, for a cam recording or whatever, yeah.
Anyway, so we'll spoil that, I guess, tomorrow or some other night. If anybody wants to chat about it, explain that on to here in a minute. There, and then we'll see you tomorrow.
Peace out.
Oh, Compass has a cake. Yeah, there is a